living since being thrown out of the Windsor estate. The police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation and development on this story involving the Epstein files and all the allegations that have been swirling around about Andrew over the many years, from Virginia Giuffre, now sadly deceased, and since then, and certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files as released in the last few weeks. But the police have arrived at Sandringham Estate this morning, where Andrew has made his new home. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is. He has been arrested by the police. Of course, the brother of the current king, the second son of our late Queen Elizabeth. This is an extraordinary development. Those of us who've been talking an awful lot about establishment cover-ups and lack of, should we say, interest by the police in what are very, very serious allegations against Andrew. Perhaps pleased that that pressure has finally been put on the police, and they have done the job of actually looking into these issues seriously. Must bear in mind, of course, that the Prince has not been charged with any crime at this point, and he has always denied any wrongdoing in relation to any of the allegations about him. We'll give you more on that. We'll talk to you about that throughout the show, but I'm just being told that the arrest has been on suspicion of misconduct in public office. This, of course, relates to those Epstein file allegations and the documents that, if they are true, would suggest that he had, it is alleged, passed on basically what was confidential government information when he was the UK trade envoy for this country for 10 years to Jeffrey Epstein for Jeffrey Epstein's financial gain.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning to you. It's Thursday. What is it? The 26th of March, and there's a spring in my step and my hat is at a jaunty angle, which basically means I'm knackered. Welcome to the show. Thursday. We're almost at the end of the week. And I'm gonna dive straight in because it's been a barren area, this show. We might have the 18 back Christians here, Dodgy Damien's here, Dave Doubledecks is here, and the marvellous Neha's here. But we've missed a key component, a woman who frankly dominates this show, and really it should be called the Poppy Coburn Breakfast Show. Hello.
Hello.
Where you been, mate?
I've been in Venice, which is very nice. We went on the off-season, so it was cheaper. It was
still wet though, right?
Yeah. There you go. It was lovely.
So she's been on a romantic trip. I've never been to Venice.
I can't believe that. It's brilliant.
Did you enjoy it?
Oh,
it's a bit too cultural for me. Did you go to a casino or anything?
Oh, we didn't really do anything cultural. We just drank a lot of wine.
Did you?
Yeah. Sat back on a boat, you know.
Did you go on the old gondola?
Yeah, I did go on a gondola. Yeah.
The old barge pole. Do you know, like, what's a barge pole? They're there in Venice, right? Fantastic. Listen, some amazing news today. As ever, Alarm Clock Britain, this show is for you. Your views on the news of the day. Pops and I will dissect the papers, but it really is down to you. So much. And there is only, I've got to be honest, there really is only one story in town. We talked about this yesterday with Dan Hodges, who is a very respectable writer in the Mail and the Sunday Mail, and he thinks this is the biggest scandal to hit this government and could bring it down. But there have been developments overnight. We know about Morgan McSweeny. Morgan McSweeny was the Chief of Staff for Keir Starmer. Morgan McSweeny was very close to Peter Mandelson. Morgan McSweeny proffered that Mandelson should be the ambassador to America. In fact, he then vetted his own friend. With all the fallout of Mandelson, the authorities are now questioning how he was given the job and the lies that were told and all that. And so they basically launched an investigation and said, who's been talking to him? And they all went, Morgan McSweeny. Right. We want all your text messages and WhatsApps. Oh, I've lost my phone. It gets better, this. Overnight, Scotland Yard has published the full transcript of Morgan McSweeney's call to the police. It was his work phone that was stolen on the 20th of October, which was 9 days after the police inquiry started, which is quite interesting. He didn't tell the police that he worked at number 10. He didn't tell the police that he was the Chief of Staff. There are some discrepancies in the call. Certain towns in London, streets in London, are not actually in the area that he said. He said he was in Tower Hamlet. Turns out it was in Belgravia. Anyway, on the fact that he didn't say he worked for the Prime Minister, it was his work phone, quite conveniently, and he lied. Big furore. But this morning, overnight, and this morning, the Cabinet Office, this is my position, has retrieved some underlined text messages and emails between him and Peter Mandelson. Now, I did point out yesterday, I'm not technically great, there's a thing called a cloud, so presumably it would be backed up. I don't know. But they've found some. This, I'm sorry to go, I'm going to go about it all morning. This has to be the best example of how duplicitous this government is. We sat and we watched him and Rainer Starmer take Boris Johnson down when they couldn't find text messages after COVID and Partygate. This is outrageous, and they sound to me like they're trying to cover it up again.
I think he's the only man in London who actually wanted his phone to be nicked. I mean, he must have been walking around with it out.
Are you saying that it wasn't Poppycock? Are you saying that...
It's very unlucky, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, how very inconvenient. Just as there's a national scandal about the man that was your mentor, who also happened to be palling around with an international paedophile billionaire. You know, it happens to the best of us. Yeah, and obviously, you know that they're going to want to go through the correspondence between you and the PM. You just so happen to be walking around with your work phone. And a man comes by on a bike.
And it's your work phone that's nicked, and you've got two. It wasn't the...
No, it
that's
wasn't
a
your
50%
phone.
Your personal phone was also in your hand, but they nicked the work one.
I know. Typical, isn't it?
It is typical.
How unlucky.
I have to give great credit to Damien, Dodgy Damien, who works on the show, and Cal, because they decided off their own back to reenact the phone call between the police and one said Morgan McSweeny. I wouldn't give them both a BAFTA, but you'll get an idea from this just how Damien went. I tried it to sound confused as the policeman. Anyway, first ever. This is unique talent. Not. This is Morgan McSweeney's phone call to the Metropolitan Police, played by two dodgy blokes from the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. Take it away, Dodgy Dave.
Police, what's your emergency?
Oh, hello. Someone just robbed my phone.
Did they actually take it from you just now?
Yeah.
How did they get away?
So he's on a bike, he's come onto the pavement to grab my phone and cycled off on a bike.
And where did this happen?
It happened in Belgrave Street in Westminster.
And whose phone are you using now?
I've got two phones. I'm using my personal one. That was my work one.
Can I take the phone number for this phone you're calling on?
Yeah. 07 beep.
Thank you. And you said Belgrave Street, yeah?
Yeah, just kind of going back to the location.
Don't put yourself at any risk. It's not worth it over a phone. I appreciate it's frustrating. And which way did they go towards? Is this suspect on a bike?
He travels north. I saw him a few blocks.
So where were you when you last saw him? Have you got any idea?
Yeah, so...
Did you get up to Stepney?
Let me tell you where I got to. I'm just going back to where I can. So he turned left. There's a park on the top of the road and he turned left there.
Stepney Green Park, OK.
Yeah, he turned left there.
Is that it? Honestly,
wow. Where's the Oscar?
And by the way, can I say, that was the script, right? Can I point out that Belgrave Street is not in Westminster, it's in another part of London? Just a bit of fun from us. But that does tell you, man, that it's as dodgy as hell, this story, isn't it?
Oh, there's so many parts of this stuff that don't add up. First of all, the fact that the police tried to call him back twice.
Yes.
And he didn't pick up his personal phone, which was the one that he didn't get stolen.
You sure they rang the right number?
Well, I mean, maybe they didn't ring the right number, but it is a little bit confusing. I mean, there's so many aspects of this that are funny, right? One, Morgan McSweeney's very convenient phone theft. Two, our police being so rubbish that they may have actually helped make his case for him. And three, that London is so crime-ridden that it's slightly plausible that maybe it was accidental because so many people are getting their phones nicked. It just tells you everything you need to know, doesn't it?
Do you think they phoned... I mean, look, these are being conspiratorial, but do you think that Sadiq Khan, there was a quick call to Sadiq, could you find one of the thousands of people that walk the streets of London and nick phones? It just doesn't bloody well add up. No. And to bring it to a serious point at 6:10, the thing that really, really smacks here of desperation and confusion is, quite simply, Again, these people think the British public, the hard-working British public, are going to swallow this.
Yeah.
This is BS, and it's most obvious. There's so much I want to say about this, and just go and read it. It's in every single newspaper. Poppy, Jeremy, Paul and Dawson. Presumably the messages between McSweeny and Mandelson were two-way, so they can get them from Mandelson's phone, which is in police custody. It's exactly what I said yesterday. And then all these techie people and the government are going, no, well, we redacted that. I don't even understand what it means.
Well, they said that it's because he has disappearing messages turned on, which is, again, slightly suspicious.
We're going to do a list today, right? So I had two phones, but it was the work one that was nicked. I didn't tell them I worked at number 10 and the most powerful person in Britain. I had two phones in my hand, but luckily they only stole the work one. I had disappearing messages because I don't keep anything. Is that a government policy, disappearing messages? I thought you were supposed to keep it on.
Well, it's certainly not official government policy. In fact, Wes Streeting, I think, made an allusion last night where he said that he hasn't got disappearing messages on his phone. I mean, it's quite strange, isn't it?
Honestly, when they won power, I've been completely honest, I swallowed, as I think most of us did, we're going to do it correctly. Never in my wildest dreams did I think it could be this dark in this short space of time. Andrew Adamson, McSweeney's phone, works phone, cabinet office, national security issue. Quite right. Jez asking for a friend, but if the phone turned up at a newspaper, would they be able to publish the messages, said David in Essex.
Well, there shouldn't be any reason why they couldn't be.
Asking for a friend. Somebody's texted, they found it. Jesus Christ. Joanna from Salisbury. Jez, McSweeny, some of his text messages, just like some of Starmer's files about the decision-making of the appointment of Mandelson by Starmer were released. It's dodgy, isn't it?
Well, I'm sorry, this stuff just doesn't add up. If it came maybe at the beginning of the government, when they had a bit more credibility, then maybe you would give them the benefit of the doubt. But this is just totally unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, no one actually buys the story as it's been given by the government.
This is on a par with the I drove to Barnard Castle to check whether my eyesight was any good, Dominic Cummins, who I've nothing against for reasons I'm not going into. But honestly, it does beg the question at 12 minutes past 6 on a Thursday morning, again, when people are up and at it and trying to make a living, that these dodgy... No wonder people don't trust politicians. No wonder we're talking about Sadiq Khan yesterday, and I was saying that he got elected. Fair play, he got elected, but only 1 million Londoners voted for him out of 12 million. The apathy towards politicians is at record levels because people just go, well, you lie.
Yeah.
You lie the whole time. Does he honestly think that we're buying this story?
Well, this is the thing. I don't think he does. I don't think he cares. I think at this point it's like, let's just get this off my back. Let's just get this over and out the way.
And also,
we'll throw out any old story.
And it's the Cabinet Office again. Last night they've retrieved some of them. Well, what? Suddenly they appeared from the ether of the mobile phone world. Graham, the joiner, I don't think he gets it right. He says, listening to your show on my radio, ready for a fun-packed day at work. This government makes me sick. We all hate them. I want them to go. I mean, it's great. What a happy start to the day. My friends, welcome to Talk Breakfast, the home of common sense, the home of the Alarm Clock Brit. If you want to be on, pop is here with me, 0344 499 1000, 0344 499 1000. Your text messages to 87222. Good morning to Alex in Cardiff. Rather be not a hard-working early riser than hard-working chief of staff who is more of an idiot that is treating the public with contempt. Why not mention you work for number 10 and that you are the PM, chief of staff to the police? Would that not have sort of moved the dial a bit?
Somehow slipped your mind when you were talking to them. Yeah, again, if this is supposed to be completely legit and we're supposed to take it at face value...
Do you take it at face value?
No, of course I don't. I haven't been lobotomised since I've been away. But if, let's say we were, let's say that there is an alternative universe where I've been lobotomised, and I do believe the government... it is his responsibility as a national security issue to tell the police, hey, I'm not just some ordinary Joe Blogs. My phone needs to be, shut down immediately. You need to either find it or it needs to get wiped ASAP.
Well, I'd be going, sorry, I am the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff. On that phone are messages, security issues, the Prime Minister's mobile telephone number, which you can't get on any other... maybe you can. Not going into that. Good morning, Lee. Morning, Lee.
Good morning, puppy. Lee from Manchester. Rather convenient that this story comes out just before Parliament goes into recess for the next couple of weeks. Let's not let this story die down. Try keep it going. They need to be held accountable for this, the line cheating you-know-whats. Have a good day.
God, he sounds miserable, doesn't he? What's the matter with him?
Well, he's had about Keir Starmer.
I wouldn't wake up to him on the road. But Lee, the point's valid. I mean, they did this, if you remember, before the Easter break last year when there were claims, massive people were saying, we need a national rape gang inquiry. Here. Jess Phillips, 40 minutes before they went on the 3-week Easter recess, said, we're not having one. And off they went. This is taking the public for idiots again, though. That's what annoys me.
Well, you know what just irritated me so much? Don't forget that Keir Starmer campaigned on change, on moving past sleaze, on pretending he was Mr. Squeaky Clean. I am not like the other politicians. This is why he needs to be held to a higher standard. And frankly, being held by any standard, this is a resigning issue. I've said that several times now.
Dan Hodges said yesterday this will bring him down.
It should bring him down. If anyone has any integrity in that cabinet, they cannot go out there and defend this. Did you see him yesterday
at Prime Minister's Question Time when challenged? Right, he put his head in his hands.
Yeah.
The guy's a busted flush. Vinny, the Prat, they can still access his cloud or the government's cloud. I'm now calling him Morgan McSwindle.
Well, it's accurate, isn't it?
Keith, good morning, Jez. Good morning, Poppy. It would be incredible, would it not, to get Starmer's WhatsApp messages, but you might need Google Translate. What does that mean? What's Google Translate? Oh, no one understands him. Right, well, they're very good. See, Christian's all over it. Very dodgy. Story's not going away. 0311 0344 499 1000. Morgan McSweeny, the Chief of Staff of Keir Starmer, a couple of days after they announced a police inquiry into Peter Mandelson and all the contact and all the messages that were part of him being made the UK's ambassador. And to make it personal to you, Alarm Clock Brit, Mandelson, the dodgy man, the liar, the man who was befriending one of the world's most serial paedophiles, right, was paid 75 grand to walk away from a job that he was patently not capable of doing. McSweeny, at the centre of it, lost his phone. I can't. Literally, if you read this transcript, he basically lies about where he is, doesn't say he's the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, and Poppy Coburn just nailed it. She said, and I quote, I haven't been lobotomised while I'm away. I haven't been lobotomised. We've got more of that phone call after the break between McSweeny and the police. We've made it here on the show with Damien and Cal, who both won't be getting their BAFTAs. The other thing, by the way, Prime Minister's Question Time, 2 things about it yesterday. Did she miss the boat yesterday, excuse the pun, Kemi Badenoch?
I completely agree. I mean, I know she wanted to talk about the North Sea, oil and gas. I know we're having an energy crisis. Very true, the government needs to be held to account on it. But this is not the first time that I think she's messed up over Mandelson and not held the government's feet to the fire. This is the story. I really.
Why do you think she didn't?
I don't know. I really don't understand. I feel like she can be quite wooden sometimes, Kemi. I think she's given a brief.
It's preordained what she's going to say, and she won't deviate, right?
But you've got to react to a story like this because it's massive. You know, I know that we're all desensitised to how rubbish this government is, but it is genuinely appalling. This whole story from top to bottom, the fact that he was even implemented in the first place on McSweeney's advice, that we had Peter Mandelson knowing, as we knew, that he had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, is disgusting. He should have resigned over that. He should resign over this farce, this joke of trying to pretend that this is actually legitimately what's happened. We've all got to go along with it. I think that's what Kemi said yesterday. I think she missed a chance.
I completely agree. 0344 499 1000. Always great to see Poppy, says Mike in Shropshire. She's such a good sport, I think, even taking part in Bring Your Grandad to Work Day. Tyrone, £1 million reward offered. I'm offering £1 million for information leading to the recovery of Morgan McSweeney's mobile phone at work. If you have any information, contact me directly via talk. Brilliant. We haven't got £1 million, but yeah, anybody that finds it, give me a call. More of that phone call that we sort of put together. But by the way, we haven't put it together because the script is the script and it's in the newspapers. Can I just, before we go to a break, talk about Prime Minister's Question Time? This was missed. Can I just tell you, when asked about would we drill in the North Sea, I've talked about this till the cows come home. There's liquid gold. Here are my debts. I'm going to drill the gold to pay off my debts. Oh, hold on. No, I'm not. I'm going to wait for Norway to drill next door and have some of that, and then I'm going to buy it off them. I don't care what anybody says to me. That's madness. Yesterday, Starmer admitted, right, I don't know if we've got the clip, maybe not. Oh, we have got the clip. Listen to his... They said, will you allow it? This is what he said. Have a watch.
Will the Prime Minister approve the licences for Rosebank and Jackdaw gas fields in the North Sea?
Under statute, that is a matter for the Secretary of State, as she knows, because it's the it's the same arrangements that were in place under the last government. Licences were granted. They were then struck down because of the defects in the process of the last government.
How long? Well, let's get really serious for a minute. How long is this man going to be able to blame the last government? We are basically saying he cannot even say, I'm the Prime Minister, we are financially in a hole, I am going to change tack. Actually, positively this time, I'm going to listen to the country and I'm going to get that oil.
You know, I put my head in my hands, like Keir Starmer did listening to that clip. Has he forgotten that he is the Prime Minister?
Yeah.
What is this obsession he has with referring to process? You know that the licensing can't be done unless it's by the Secretary of State. You're the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
You go up to Ed Miliband and you tell him, get it done.
But he can't
okay?
because Miliband will get him thrown out.
Well, quite, because Miliband's the person who's actually wearing the trousers here. As I've said before in the show, he's the real Prime Minister. He will probably become the actual Prime Minister in name before we get a new government in power. I'm sorry to say so. He tried to get him reshuffled a couple of months ago, the Prime Minister did, and he just said no. And Keir went, oh, OK, then, fair enough.
I've missed her impression.
I mean, seriously, who is actually in charge of the country? I think that's the question that Kemi should have asked him yesterday. How can he not make this decision at a time of a national emergency?
Completely agree. What do you make of what Poppy says? You're waking up to the headlines that Scotland Yard has published in full the transcript of a call between Morgan McSweeny, the ex-chief of staff, and the police. We've sort of play acting, we've reenacted it for you. But in truth, the man who was the most powerful man in government lost his phone, or it was nicked in London just a few days after an inquiry was launched to say we want all that information because we're slightly worried about how Mandelson got the job. There are holes in what he said to the police. There's holes this morning. The Cabinet has said we've retrieved some of those text messages. Where from overnight? Where from? Where? Utopia? Because they can't find the others. This is absolutely... Honestly, this is unbelievable. And Kemi Bednock, we need to make the point. She missed a trick yesterday. This guy is not only on the ropes, he's on his hands and knees. Morning, Lee.
Morning, Poppy. Morning, Jezza. It's Lee in his van from Scarborough, veteran. Am I on my phone or somebody else's? I don't really know. Is it mine? Who does it belong to? All these messages. More scandal. More scandal, Jezza. Oh, you've just got to laugh about this, haven't you? Hey, really? What are they covering up now? What are they covering up that we don't know? Good show, Jezza, Poppy. Keep it up.
The Crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to the royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 6:25. It is Thursday, the 26th of March. You're very welcome to Talk Breakfast, the home of common sense and the home of Poppy Coburn. Give her a round of applause. She's back from Venice. It's like I'm reunited with my favourite person.
And on a day of great news as well. Another Labour story.
Front page of the Daily Mail, a very convenient theft. Guy Adams investigates the curious case. Why did I do that? Of Number 10 chief, his WhatsApps to Mandelson and the handily timed disappearance of his phone. I know we're talking about it. It's unbelievable. Overnight, Morgan McSweeny, the man who was Starmer's #1 man. He was a friend of Mandelson's. He said Mandelson should be the ambassador. Starmer went, oh, right. He said, I'll vet him. Honestly, it'll be fine. All right. We'll give him the job. All right. Oh, God, we've got to sack him. He's, oh, Christ, the old Jeffrey Epstein. So, oh, all right. But when an investigation was announced, right? When an investigation was announced by the police, 3 days later, his phone's been nicked. We've had a little bit of fun with the transcript. It will probably be criticised, but there you go. From our show, Dodgy Damien and Callous Cal, as I'm now calling him, have reenacted the policeman and the conversation from Morgan McSweeny on the phone that is now out for public record. Makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. This is pas deux. Enjoy.
Can you remember anything about his appearance?
Yeah, he was young, he was a black guy, he was on a bike.
About how young? Just a guess.
Teens, late teens.
Was he skinny, tall, any idea?
Yeah, he was slim. He was about average height.
Was it on an e-bike or a pedal bike?
Pedal bike.
Have you got a tracker on the phone at all?
I do. It's a government phone.
And it's your work phone. What kind of phone is it?
It's an iPhone.
Do you know what model?
I don't.
Right, just bear with me a second. We would normally deploy to see you, but at the moment we're having extreme demand on police officers, so I don't know if you would prefer to make your way home and make a crime report over the phone or online tomorrow. I mean, I can complete one with you now, I can pass it down, you can wait, but honestly, I don't know how long you'll be waiting.
If I could complete it now, that would be good.
Okay. What's your name, please?
My name is Beep.
Beep!
Yeah.
And your date of birth, please?
It's Beep.
Call handler is beep, all one word.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's not the greatest acting in the world, but it does rather show you exactly what... I'm the Chief of Staff of the Prime Minister.
That was the moment to say it. That was the moment to...
It's a government phone. Listen, you oik. Find my phone. Sorry, the police are busy.
Yeah.
They're taking part in a Macarena dance in Putney.
Due to high demand. Oh, well, fair enough then. I guess I'll just leave it till I get home and then I'll file my report. I mean, that is the opportunity that you would go, by the way, I am the official power behind the UK government. My decisions decide who lives or dies. Oh, it just slipped my mind. It just slipped my mind when I was filing my crime report.
How dodgy does that sound?
I mean, the whole thing is just completely unbelievable. I'm sorry, I just do not buy it.
And I'm sorry for going on about it for half an hour, but it's an extraordinary story, and it does shine a light, absolutely, on a man, again, who came to office saying, country before party, proper grown-up politics, the excesses, the lies, the duplicity of the Tories is a thing of the past. I'm sorry, it's not even a political comment, it's a moral comment. There is so many things about this government that stink that is absolutely right. And I was with Dan Hodges yesterday. He's done some incredible work. It's raging about this, and quite rightly so. Because it's a cover-up. Labour insult our intelligence, says Margaret in Norfolk, every day by stretching our realms of reality. It's like being lied to by a teenager with the imagination of a slug. Morning, Poppy and Jez. Ray from Huntingdon. Can you imagine if you or I got our work phone stolen and we were in such a high position in the government? I would have been absolutely distraught and worried sick. I would have quickly informed everyone who needed to know within minutes. On the other phone that was the personal phone, by the way. That's the other thing that doesn't make sense. I'm walking down the street, Pops, right? We've got two, well, one's a banana and a packet of biscuits. Well, imagine my phone. Oh, when I walk one. Oh, you've taken the work one. Oh, quick, I'll ring the other one. There's a 50% chance he's lying on that as well, is there? The whole thing. And why has he got two phones? I mean, was he the Chief of Staff? Was he, in fact... I'm not going there. Thank you, Ray. Jezza Pops. Is that a cereal? Or is that a new...
It literally sounds like a cereal, doesn't it?
We are now a cereal. Paul in Luton. Just wondering, has anyone checked Louise Haig's desk for McSweeney's phone? This is the red-headed... She was the Transport Secretary who lasted about 8 hours. because it turned out that she'd lied before she became a government minister because she nicked a mobile phone. Absolutely saying something. That's brilliant.
How funny is it that this is not the first Labour figure to have issues with the police and their mobile phone? I mean, it says everything you need to know.
This has just gone mad this morning. John in Sutton, Starmer has brought PMQs into disrepute. He rarely answers any questions, so nobody can hold the government to account. Good morning, gorgeous Poppy and the old git next to you. Morgan McSweeny is such a storyteller. He should bring back Jack Anori. Great show. Keep up the work. That's Joey in Paddenham. I hope I said that right, in Lancashire. Jez and Poppy, I'm sure if a newspaper put a 50 grand reward for whoever stole it, it would rather have that than 50 grand from the local dodgy vape shop, says David in Cheshire. Unbelievable. Can we talk very quickly? That story's going to roll on. We've talked about Kemi Badenoch missing the trick. You might have seen what Farage and the Reform MPs did yesterday.
I did.
Prime Minister's question time. A lot of people have said, oh, that's petulant. Basically, Nigel Farage was allowed a question. He asked a very legitimate question, I have to say, about the numbers of people that have come to this country. And Starmer, the depth of... just completely refuses to answer the question, completely disses him. I personally, nothing to do with the reform, believe that Prime Minister's questions should have questions from every leader, from the Scottish leader, the Irish. I believe it shouldn't just be the opposition. And I believe that the Speaker needs to jump in and make sure that the Prime Minister answers questions, because actually it makes a complete mockery of what Prime Minister's question is. I mean, and they walked out. Is that a good look or not? I don't know. But I have to say, I do think I saw something with Tice last night on some news channel saying this is an utter disgrace. It's going to come to the point where there is no point in having bloody Prime Minister's questions.
I actually completely agree with their decision to walk out. I mean, I think they treated the process of BMQs with exactly the amount of respect it deserves, which is to say zero, because it's just a joke at the moment. I mean, one of the messages that came in, if the Prime Minister is not actually taking this seriously, if he can't be bothered to even answer the questions, then why should people bother to turn up? Yeah. It's supposed to be about holding the government to account. And if the government is either not answering questions or, frankly, there's a suggestion of them lying, trying to mislead the public, then it should be treated with contempt. I think it's absolutely disgusting.
Let's say good morning to Kitty. Morning, Kitty.
Jeremy, Kitty from Kent here. The Morgan McSweeny is just in a long line of cover-ups and corruption and fraudulent behaviour from this government. And what I find worrying is that each week we focus on, and the media focuses on, the latest piece of corruption. But they just seem to then get brushed under the carpet, which is clearly what the government wants, and they're getting away with it. It's tyrannical behaviour, and how are we allowing it? I feel like I'm going mad. How are we allowing it, and how do we stop it? Because if we've only got Talk TV and maybe one or other two outlets who are willing to voice these things, and then they are deemed as far right by the rest of the media, we are in big trouble. We need the entire pot of corruption, festering badness from this government to be raised in one go. And each week, everything that's gone before it, repeated, repeated, repeated.
It's an interesting point, and I'll tell you how I answer that about Talk specifically. You can label it what you want. We only survive, unlike the BBC, on the people that decide to tune in, the people that decide to advertise on the station. I justify everything we do here by simply saying people phone up and they're allowed their opinions. This Labour government is pulling the wool over the eyes of hard-working alarm clock Brits, and that is a fact. Take that as you want. I find it astonishing, and I'm with Kitty, that they are so lacking in any foresight that they think this is either going to work, or people are going to be stupid enough not to get angry about this, or have they got a death wish? Do they know that they're done? It doesn't make any sense.
What this whole scandal is about is the Prime Minister took a political risk in getting Mandelson on board.
I've always wanted to know why, mate.
Well,
I think because it makes no sense.
The decision was stupid. I think it was completely stupid, but frankly, McSweeny had a close relationship with him. McSweeny was the real person who was in power, and he wanted him in the job, and so Starmer, as you said, goes, oh, OK, fine, that's all right then.
And I love her.
But that means if there is a political fallout, inevitably that comes from the stupid decision to put Peter Mandelson in that ambassador's role, then you, as Prime Minister, must carry the can. That is your responsibility. This is not leadership to get all your cabinet ministers around you to have to justify what you've done.
And, you know, it's not like when I watch him, right, he doesn't even look like he believes what he's saying.
Doesn't.
I'm waiting, and people laugh. I said this in the office yesterday. I'm waiting for him to just walk away and just go, I can't do this anymore, because he literally looks as out of his depth as that woman at number 11. Margaret in Birmingham, Jez, Poppy, first thing he should have said is, I work at number 10. I'm the most important person in the land. Find that phone or I'll have your job. I mean, she says it's a mystery. Where are the witnesses? Victoria in Bexley-on-Sea, McSweeney's phone. Morning, gang. Looks like it's time to get the lie detector dusted off, Jez, although I think we all know the outcome. Keep up the great work. We asked you, Morgan McSweeny. No, don't. I can't. It's just, honestly, I can't. Honestly, shall I do it?
Yeah, go on.
We asked you, Morgan, did you really lose your phone to a thief? You said no. I can't do it. I can't do it. People are they're looking at me through the glass. I'm actually quite nervous about doing that. It's been a while. Watch the film McSweeny Only Rings Twice, hitting the screens today. Is that right? There we go. Graham Pack, as McSweeny doesn't know the difference between Stepney and Westminster, is he now working as an Uber driver? Graham from Bushy. Alex says, I'm sorry, but Jez, Poppy, it's just double standards. Boris, who quite rightly was hounded by the mainstream media out of his job, Keir Starmer's government is, and is treated like a non-story on the BBC and ITV. I think this is right. Also, he might be legally correct. It's up to the Secretary of State to make the decision about the drilling. But Starmer does have the power to sack him and bring in a new energy secretary that supports sensible policies. Just shows what a PM who has 411 MPs and is being held hostage by them cannot do anything. Very interesting about the Ed Miliband. Very interesting about this is going absolutely nowhere. I love this. Why, you bring joy to my life. Good morning, Carl.
Hi there, Jeremy. Carl from Coventry here. Oh, and hi, Poppy, as well. No, Kemi should have been tearing him a new one yesterday. She had the chance. She should have really tore Keir a new one, but she never. Which then sort of tells me, well, nothing's changed. The Labour and the Conservatives are just the same. She didn't want to grill him on it, so they haven't changed. I think it was George Galloway that come out with one of the best quotes that I'd heard when he turned around and said, 2 cheeks from the same backside.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. What is it? 6:39. We're live across the UK. It's Thursday morning on Talk Breakfast. Jezza and Poppy on the show. I can't. This story's not going anywhere, is it? I mean, I apologise. Cliff in Berkshire says, I've advocated for years that that opposition MP should walk out during Prime Minister's question time when the PM doesn't answer the questions posed. This goes back to the days of Blair. Nigel from Brighton. Another day, another sleaze story about this dreadful government. Yet again, I challenge you to find this McSweeny and his phone story anywhere on the BBC. Contrast this to when Boris was being hounded by them for his WhatsApp messages. This is how this government knows it can do what it likes and get away with it because the BBC is leading the media pack to look the other way. I'll tell you one thing, Nigel in Brighton, and there are people that will go, oh, why is he saying that? I'm not looking the other way. It's not right to look the other way. There are plenty of examples of people, okay, who have passed judgment on others. You know what they say, when the truth comes home to roost. If if you set your stall out, Keir Starmer, you absolutely did in terms of Boris Johnson. You were right. You outed him. You talked about process and all that. Well, the light's on you, mate. That's perfectly justifiable in my world.
I completely agree with you. I mean, I'm sorry, it's not like this government hasn't been asking for the response that it's been getting. If they had not pretended that they were so virtuous, that they were so much better than the Tories, then perhaps we wouldn't be kicking them so hard on the way back down. I'm
Couldn't
sorry.
agree more. The phone story is huge. Kemi Bednott missing the point really at Prime Minister's Question Time, and Starmer yesterday saying it's up to Miliband if we drill or not. That's interesting. Here's one for you quickly. Junior doctors are on strike for 6 days from April. Do you know that this is the 15th strike in 3 years? This is after they were given 26%. The review body recommended 3.5. I put this at Wes Streeting's store. When he came to power, I sort out the doctors, there's 20 whatever it was percent. Nothing in that contract that said you can't ask for anything else for the next 5 years. They're back again. Sorry, it's quite outspoken. I wouldn't allow them to strike. I think they should pass a law that says it's illegal. I think it's fundamentally disgraceful.
Well, you know what I think? Because by the time I'm older, I don't think the NHS will be there anymore. It's not going to be there anymore. We've got to be realistic. It's just not. There's not enough taxation money. The amount of people that work is shrinking every single year, and the tax burden's going up and up and up. And
do you know what I crave is for people to take their rose-tinted spectacles off and look at it. I understand the theory, and I agree with this. One of the greatest inventions to be able to get that at source, but it is now. We have an older population, a bigger population. We have people in our population who do not provide anything towards that and take. And unless we have that honest conversation, we're going nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, the advice I always give to young people is put money into your pension as well. Put money into plan for your own future, because you won't be able to rely on the government anymore.
Put your money in your pension?
Yeah.
I'm going to say the wrong thing. I'm going to sound like Ken Dodd. I put it under the bed the way the world's going. Do you know what I mean? Morning, Pete. How are you?
Morning, Jezza and Poppy. Well, this phone thing. You know, we hear it so many times that someone gets their phone stolen, the police can go on there and they can track down everything that's on somebody's phone these days. They can track it down, all the past stuff. So we know that the whole country's being scammed yet again by this government.
Oh, what? Here comes our acting friend Damien bringing in the tea. You see, from bringing in the tea to being an A-list superstar actor. Morning, Damien.
Morning.
No, that's quite scary. Morning. Can I just also, before we go to Hollywood, which obviously Damien wants to, and talk to Kins, drilling, junior doctors, dodgy McSweeny and the missing mobile. Front page of The Sun. I don't know if you've seen this programme. Did you watch the programme on Channel 5? It was Martin Clunes as Hugh Edwards. Have you watched it?
I've only seen clips. I haven't seen it.
I'm the same. I haven't watched it yet. This has had critical acclaim. And I absolutely agree with the front page of The Sun today. Why isn't Hugh Edwards in jail? He is a convicted paedophile. He's getting £200,000 a year. And I turn this on the BBC because, you know, we're hearing criticism of the BBC about, you know, you won't show coverage of things you don't like people criticising this government or criticising parts of what this government wants to do. But this man, if you do get a chance, and I'm no advocate of certain television stations, it's a fine piece of work by Channel 5. Everybody I've spoken to this morning says this is an unbelievable portrayal and shows the depth of evil and depravity that this man it was responsible for, and yet he's got himself a PR agent who's hawking his stuff around the place going, oh, everything's fine.
Well, can you believe that he was saying that he actually opposes the TV show and he thinks it's a really bad taste? It's like, well, if you don't like the TV show, maybe you shouldn't have been sending round child pornography images.
Well, procuring young boys is not doesn't put you in particularly good stead.
They haven't made the show for no reason, exactly.
I absolutely agree with you on that, and you know, I understand again from Alarm Clock Brit's point of view. You know, you're getting $200,000 a year.
Yeah.
He abused his position absolutely and utterly, and but it's an extraordinary portrayal. And I don't watch much daytime television anymore, but I saw a clip. I watched a clip of. I think it was this morning interviewing him, and Martin Clunes just said he's got front, hasn't he? Basically, he's got some front to criticise, is it? I mean, you know, he's been around enough people who have been done for things and sat there and passed judgment. I think it's appalling. It's extraordinary, and I don't know why he's not in jail. And I don't know why they do not move heaven and earth, the BBC, to get his money back, our money back.
Completely agree. as you just put it, our money. This is why people do not trust people in public life anymore.
Yeah.
Because there are so many scandals like this, and it seems like people get off with a slap on the wrist. I mean, I'm sorry, if you commit a child sex offence, which is what the actual offence that he committed is, you should be in jail, and in jail for a long time.
Absolutely. Let's do our daily cross. Christian's going to put some stuff up for me. We're going to cross to LA and say a very good morning to the hosts of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. It is indeed Kinsey Schofield. I tried to ring you, but have you lost your mobile phone?
When did you try to ring me?
No, you're missing the point. Have you not heard this scandal over here about the mobile phone?
Oh, I did. I actually heard it on the Jeremy Kyle show at the crack of dawn today when I was curling my hair or trying to do my hair. I heard you guys talking about him getting his phone snatched conveniently right when they needed the evidence.
That's for you to say. I would never pontificate, but it's extraordinary. Allegedly. Oh, Kinsey, you've just... sorry, hold on a second. You've just taken your phone out of your pocket, Poppy. Is that yours or is that Morgan McSweeney's?
It's my work phone.
Where's your personal phone?
My personal phone got stolen on the way here.
No way.
Could you believe it? I know.
What, those messages that we shared?
Yeah,
they're out there.
They're gone. They're gone.
Can you phone up and say that you are Poppy Coburn from the Daily Telegraph? Honest to God. Kins, welcome. Front page of the Mirror this morning, second sighting of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. That's not the interesting thing. You know, such a hard life. He's driving with a detective. Do your duty. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has a duty to be questioned in the US about his relationship with paedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein, a leading Democrat, Jamie Raskin, senator last night. That changes the game, doesn't it?
Well, can I first just say, you and I, we got so much hostility. There was an article written over in the United States on Soap Opera Digest about how people were mad at us for being critical of Andrew for being spotted earlier this week. So now I'm tiptoeing around.
Sorry, hold on a second. Now, I'm going to have to share this with you, ladies. We got some criticism. You think I give a fat rat's backside? Seriously? Honestly? That tells me that certain people don't like questions about things that the general public want to talk about. What were we criticised for?
They said that we were giving Andrew a hard time.
He's a slime ball who lied to his family, lied to this country, and is best or was best friends with the worst convicted paedophile in the world. What more do they want?
I mean, you preach. I'm loving this energy coming from you. But yeah, so I was a little nervous to discuss another Andrew sighting based on the fact that we were kind of raked over the coals for our last exchange over it.
Well, I don't know where we were raked. If it was in America, I don't care. But I can tell you categorically that the people in this country genuinely are fed up going to work, paying their taxes, and still looking at a man who's got a chef and a valet and will not show any compassion or apology to anybody. That's the truth.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I think he's an embarrassment, and I think he's a constant reminder of failure, you know, in the palace. And it's not necessarily an insult to King Charles, although he could have handled it sooner. I do think that the Queen, during her reign, should have been more aggressive. And unfortunately, Charles is left dealing with the consequences, and that's Andrew on the front page of papers every day until we find out whether or not he's going to be arrested again or prosecuted for this. Unfortunately, this is going to be a sin that hangs over the palace's head until we get those answers. And I don't think this is going to be executed quickly. I think we're looking at months, if not years, of them investigating. And it's just a dark cloud, isn't it? And we were talking the other day, weren't we, quite seriously about, you know, what happens next to this man. For all the apologists, I haven't heard any in this country, you know, it's not done. You can't allege... Well, listen, let's make the point. We have to make the point. He denies all accusations. There's a lot of proof that would say that, you know, that's a discussion that has to be had. But, I mean, you sit here as a royalist, and I'm a fervent royalist, and wonder what will ultimately happen to our monarchy on the back of this, because people's opinions are changing and hardening all the time, Kins. They really are. Well, and we're hearing from Prince William for the first time about his faith, his quiet faith. I didn't know what that meant the other day. What's quiet faith? I think it means it's something he's navigating privately and maybe not as, you know, not as blatantly as Queen Elizabeth and King Charles have done so. But when you're thinking about the head of the church, when you're thinking about a person in that position, which, you know, King Charles currently is,
yeah,
it's hard to take them seriously when you have this kind of vulgarity around you.
Yeah, agree. Do you think it could ever get to the point where Andrew could be extradited to the United States?
I don't think so. I think he's going to always have really great lawyers around him that protect him from that space. I mean, the people that I've talked to that are barristers over there say I would not let him say a single thing, and that they would not let him step foot in the United States ever again, out of fear that he would be swooped up by the government the second his feet touch the ground.
Can you see that? Can you see a point? I was reading an article last night, and it sort of painted the difficulty of the picture for Charles. It was more sympathetic towards him and said that, you know, he maybe is concerned about what Andrew could do, retaliation, if he ever did cut him loose. I think that's a really salient point. I do.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've discussed that. I mean, Andrew knows what was going on behind the scenes during the Diana divorce. God knows what he knows that we don't know, that wouldn't be a positive reflection on the House of Windsor. You know, he could write a book if he wanted to, and he'd make an ungodly amount of money. So I do think that ultimately that is why the king is nervous about him and sort of still gives him almost nearly everything he asks for.
Yeah.
You know, he is pampered over there. Yes, he's living next to a mobile home park now, but he has everything else he could ever want.
And I think that, on a serious note, is the issue with many people. Just people who perhaps have never questioned the monarchy before are saying, so you can be accused of something like this, and there is evidence out there, and people will make their own minds. And yet, apart from one or two titles, you're still living. I think this is a really important point because we're in the middle of a cost of living, as you are in America. You're still living in luxury. You're still having everything done for you. There hasn't been a sign of contrition. There hasn't been an apology at all. And I think that is what really, really annoys people.
And unfortunately, while this is still under investigation, I mean, could we see the king cut him off? Perhaps, maybe that's the next step, but we won't see the king talk about it because while they're under investigation, that would jeopardize said investigation, and the king's not going to be the reason that this whole thing falls apart.
I think that the pressure will come from British taxpayers who are basically maybe have never questioned the royal family before, and they're going, right, so if Charles is basically paying for him, that means we're paying thing. I think that the fear for the royal family is there will be an audit, in effect, a moral audit about how much are we actually paying. I think they will have to justify through transparency far more than they ever had to. Is that a good thing? Probably, but he's a real issue for them because he's a stain. He's a stain on the royal family, and I guess if you're Charles, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
I do not envy his position. And like I always want to stress, this is a man with cancer who shows up every day. You know, we know he's getting treatment every week, and he still shows up and he's put on a brave face. And so I really appreciate him for doing that. And he's in a difficult position, but I wish he were tougher in this specific situation. And we also should stress, it's my understanding that Andrews told him, I'm innocent, I'm innocent, I'm innocent. Like he's saying these revelations.
And you think that he doesn't know? Because I can absolutely say this will happen. We did this yesterday. If it goes to court, Andrew Mountbatten, Windsor, can get off by simply saying, I told my brother, and it's his brother's court and his brother's legal system, and he can't be called as a witness. You are amazing. I hope I haven't got you into any more trouble. In fact, I hope we have. Loving you
Wait, you didn't wish me a happy birthday.
Oh, jeez. Is it your birthday?
Yeah.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Thank
Happy
you.
birthday,
Thank
gorgeous Kinsey.
Thank you.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
I'll send you a muffin in post. Happy birthday, darling. Thanks for coming on. Have a great day. Kinsey Schofield. We forgot, didn't we, Pops?
By the time it gets to LA, that muffin's going to be pretty unpleasant, is it not?
I don't care. You're waking up. We've only got a couple of minutes before the delightful... Good to see Beauty and the Beast for the first hour. I've decided I miss Poppy, so I'm going to lose my phone, says old man Steve in Cambridge. Thank you. Just back to this story that will not go anywhere. Morgan McSweeny, the ex-chief of staff, the man who was friends with Mandelson, pushed for Mandelson to be the ambassador to America, vetted Mandelson, and then when it all went... What's it's up? And he said the wrong word then. The police went, we need to investigate. Give me your phone. And his phone was nicked. Overall view from you, it's as dodgy as hell, isn't it?
I mean, I'm just laughing because that's basically my overall view, even though it's not funny, because it is a bad joke. I mean, it's just ridiculous that they expect us to believe that Morgan McSweeny has got to be the luckiest man in Britain.
He was carrying two phones, but it was the work one was nicked.
Oh, yeah,
He didn't
brilliant.
tell the police he was the most powerful person in Britain, so they didn't bother.
Yeah, and it just so happened that it was, 3 days after the investigation into him began?
And it also so much happened that he has messages disappearing switched on. And also, sorry, could I just also point out that overnight the Cabinet Office has retrieved some of those messages. I don't know where some have come from the ether. Come down to me, some of you, but not the rest of you. Maybe we've redacted them. Maybe they're the ones that we need to see.
I mean,
the whole
what
thing
messages
is
are these going to be messages to his mum saying, like, happy birthday, love you? Or are they going to be the actual messages between him and Peter Mandelson?
Happy birthday, Pete, I love you. I've no idea what that would say. Do you know what I mean?
There you go. I mean, we need answers. We cannot keep getting fobbed off with the same excuse, which I think the government has for everything now, which is it's under a police investigation.
Is this the Watergate for Keir Starmer? Could this be the...
It's just like his fifth Watergate, isn't it? It has, seriously, how many scandals has this government had?
Yeah.
Even Nixon stood down. I mean,
there's your thoughts as we head to the news at 7. She's off for a busy day at the Daily Telegraph. We love you, Poppy Coburn. Thank you very much indeed. Almost 7 o'clock. News on the way. Your calls and your views of the news of the day. 0344 499 1000. 0344 499 1000. As ever, text 87222. Start your message with the word talk. News at 7, and next we'll go live to our Talk International editor, Isabel Oakeshott, and Talk Breakfast next after the news.
Current affairs, international news, letting criminals off while sending... Oi! You shut up! I'm trying to record something.
Stand by for 3 powerhouse hours of breaking news, challenging views. I don't give a flying damn about international law. I think people will viscerally reject this.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Fancy returning to the front line as Foreign Secretary?
I am going to return. I am going to return.
To
the people from whence I came. Hello, I'm Peter Mandelson, and I'm proud to serve as His Majesty's British Ambassador to the United States of America. I feel a tremendous sense, a profound sense of sympathy for those people, those women who suffered as a result of his behaviour and his illegal criminal activities. And secondly, I regret very, very deeply indeed carrying on that association with him for far longer than I should have done.
The Ambassador has repeatedly expressed his deep regret for his association with him. He's right to do so. I have confidence in him, and he's playing an important role in the UK-US relationship.
Mandy's out 4 decades and 3 scandals, or 3 that we know about. Guess what? Number 10 knew all about it. They knew that he lived in Jeffrey Epstein's flat.
Mandelson resigned from the Labour Party late last night over the allegation of a $75,000 set of payments to him from Epstein while he was business secretary, $10,000 to his now husband, a photo of him in his pants. This isn't just bad form. There are strong arguments here for him to be facing investigation over misconduct in public office.
I knew of his association with Epstein, but had I known then what I know now, I'd have never appointed him.
Breaking news that Lord Mandelson, Peter Mandelson, has now been arrested. So Mandy and Andy have now both had their collars felt. This is the establishment, the British establishment on trial. Came to us around about 5 o'clock when we learned that we saw footage of Peter Mandelson being led out of his London home in very exclusive Regent's Park by 3 coppers.
Now we have all these allegations, we have all the documentation related to those allegations, which Downing Street is being forced to put out.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. Just gone 7 o'clock. It is Thursday, the 26th of March, and you're very welcome. It's Talk Breakfast, the home of common sense. It's where you come and give us your views on the day's news. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. This story, the #1 story, whoever tells you, of course, the ongoing situation in Iran, of course, should we drill or not drill? Of course, the junior doctors are going on strike again for the 15th time in 3 years. I'd take all their money away. The main news story is possibly, in the words of Dan Hodges in the Mail, and I agree with him, the ultimate scandal that should bring down this government. Just to put it in basic layman's terms, Morgan McSweeny used to be the chief of staff for Keir Starmer. He was the power behind the throne. He was very close to Peter Mandelson. He said to Starmer, I think Mandelson will be a great ambassador to America. And everybody went, really? And he went, absolutely. And Starmer went, OK. And he said, I'll vet him. And he went, OK. And he said, give him the job. And he went, OK. And then when it all went wrong, because Mandelson was, let's be honest, particularly close to one of the world's most notorious paedophiles, and he resigned in disgrace and got 75 grand of your tax-paying money, an investigation was announced. Yesterday we discovered that Morgan McSweeney's mobile phone with the messages that we need for the investigation was taken in a robbery. And I am not in any way saying that that robbery did not take place. That would be disrespectful, because overnight the Metropolitan Police have released the whole conversation. We'll play a bit of it. We've reenacted it in a minute. But if you're walking along the street, right, and you've got 2 phones, you're not a drug dealer, it's not one to burn, you've got 2, quite good that they just took the work one, just dropped it in there. And then when you ring the police and you lie about where you are in London and you don't mention you're the most powerful man in British politics and that on that phone is potentially sensitive information, you know, people are going to go, what is this? This is a bit like Lord Lucan, isn't it? It's a bit dodgy. And even more dodgy, he says, is that overnight, in response, the Cabinet Office have found, and I quote, some of those messages. Now, I'm not a technical person because there's a cloud in the sky, apparently. But how do you find some? Are these the ones, as Poppy Coburn just said, to his mum saying, love you, happy Mother's Day, everything's fine? Or are these the ones that say, Petey, I love you, I want you to have the job? Nobody knows. Starmer, yesterday, at Prime Minister's Question Time, had his head in his hands. Because the truth is, this is sleaze. Total sleaze. It is... And the reason I'm going to go on about this is because, quite rightly, when Johnson messed up, he, on camera there, Keir Starmer and all of his lieutenants, put the boot in. They talked about decent government. They talked about doing the right thing. Now the light's on you, mate. Morning, Paula.
Morning, Jeremy. Paula in Liverpool. We're going to be stuck with this guy till 2029. I can't count the number of times I've thought, right, he's going to have to resign now. He'll step down now. The clothes scandals, Lord Ali, the Southport incidents, the rape gang inquiries, the U-turns, and now this. And he's still there, clinging on like a limpet. How can he? How can he stand up in Prime Minister's Question Times like he did yesterday, looking for all the world like he's got no authority over his party and just gaslight us? Oh, my God. Please, somebody do something. We're going to be stuck with him till 2029, I know it. Thanks, Paula in Liverpool.
That's put me in a good mood. Now, there are two people who work incredibly hard on this show. One is Damien, Dodgy Damien, G-Spot, the man we can never find. He wants to be a thespian. The other is Cal, who does all the headlines. He is a thespian. We decided to reenact in 3 parts. This is being released by the Metropolitan Police. In this segment of the conversation between Morgan McSweeny and the slightly confused-sounding police officer, there's a discussion about sensitive information. What do you get from talk? Enjoy, my friends.
Any finance apps on the phone?
No.
You'll need to change any passwords for any logins you don't have on the phone.
Yeah, okay.
You're not vulnerable in any way, are you?
No, I'm not.
Do you believe there was any CCTV where the incident happened?
Might be.
Don't worry, don't return. No, I'll put the moment unknown, and obviously we'll find out more the more we find out. Are you willing to make a statement to support the investigation?
Definitely.
So what time did he actually snatch the phone?
About 2 minutes before I rung you, and I chased him, and then I rang my office to get the phone tracked, and then I rang you.
Okay, cool. It would have been about 25 past that you were robbed.
A little before, about 23 minutes past, I think.
23, a little bit before. Okay. Just bear with me. I'm just trying to get this system to accept the address. Sorry about this. I won't keep you much longer.
Listen, I can just tell you, having listened to the whole thing and read it, it's the biggest pile of... Morning, Isabel Oakshott.
Morning. When I heard the reenactment of that, I actually thought it was a joke. Like, I didn't think that was the real transcript.
That is the transcript on my life, word for word.
I mean, this thing absolutely reeks, doesn't it? I've read the investigation by Guy Adams, who's a brilliant journalist.
Yeah, just to point that out, front page of the Mail, I want to do that quite right. He is a great journalist. A very convenient theft, says Guy Adams. Guy Adams investigates the curious case of Number 10 Chief, his WhatsApps to Mandelson, and the handily timed disappearance of the phone, Isabel.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, was the phone stolen, in quotes, in Pimlico on Belgrave Road, which is a street I know very well? Not actually ideal for phone snatching from a bike because the pavements are really wide there. So I wouldn't have thought that that was a top place to snatch phones. Or was it stolen on some other street beginning with B in Tower Hamlets, an area I'm not so familiar with, but probably is more phone theft hot compared to that very, very wide street in Pimlico.
Well, there's lots of CCTV I've had checked this morning in Pimlico. The whole
there
thing,
will be, because
let's call it for what it is. This is as dodgy as anything, isn't it? This is low even for this government, Isabel.
It's really desperate stuff. And I mean, I suppose the other side of this is that any WhatsApp exchanges with Peter Mandelson would surely be on Peter Mandelson's phone.
Said this.
So what about the other half of this? But then again, I don't really know many people in high places that don't now have disappearing messages settings on their WhatsApps, partly because of yours truly releasing a whole load of government WhatsApp messages some years ago. And immediately after I did that, I noticed that most people now put disappearing messages
But
on.
hold on a minute. The duplicity of this is obvious to me, right? I've been on this for 2 hours, right? You're walking down the street, right? Let's just lay this out. And you've got two phones, and conveniently, it's the work one that goes missing. Yeah, OK, I'm not... That could have happened. There's a 50% chance that he's telling the truth there with that. The timing is extraordinary. A few days after he was summoned and told that information was needed because of the outpouring, quite rightly, against Mandelson's acceptance of that job. But then you have the messaging. Would you not have gone... This is Isabel Oakeshott, the Chief of Staff to the Prime Minister, and on that phone is really sensitive information. The Prime Minister's telephone number and messages you need to do. He says, I phoned my office to track it, but he didn't have tracker on. Your WhatsApp disappearing messages that you just said, Wes Streeting didn't turn his off because he bleated to the press several weeks ago about the Mandelson thing. I'm not over-egging this. And this morning, the Cabinet Office have released, in answer to your aren't they in a cloud thing, some of them. This is... You nailed this. This is desperate. Anybody with a brain cell can see through this. And the reason I'm doing this and keeping doing this is the worst example of the duplicity, the lies and the cover-up that have symbolised this government over 20 months, and it needs to be called out.
I actually think we should not let it go, and we should keep on pushing in the manner that political journalists are brilliant at doing. You know, I know that now the Westminster lobby, and that's a group of accredited political journalists, will smell blood on this, and they will go for it. And ultimately, I wonder whether Morgan McSweeny might end up being prosecuted for wasting police time. If this is a fiction, then he's wasted police time, hasn't he? You're absolutely right. If my phone was stolen, and I'm not Chief of Staff to Keir Starmer, thank God, but even as me, I would say, just to let you know, this phone is full of government contacts and pretty interesting stuff, actually. So would you mind just escalating? Because I'm not just an ordinary punter here with a few messages to my mum and my brother. This is actually, it has a lot of sensitive stuff on it. Of course they would have escalated it. Of course they would have. Yeah. First thing to see, because the first thing would have been, you'd wonder, is this not actually just a phone snatching gang thing? Could this actually be by a foreign intelligence service?
There you are. You see, and that's the other that's the other salient point. There's too much to this, and some people would say, oh, hold on, breaking. Oh, I love doing breakfast. Play me my thing. Isabel, you ready? Breaking news. Sir Keir Starmer has just sent this message, not to me. He has said it is a little bit far-fetched to suggest the theft of his former Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney's phone was in any way linked to the release of files on Lord Peter Mandelson, which tells me that the Prime Minister is acutely aware of what people think. Just to repeat, breaking news, Sir Keir Starmer has said it is a little bit far-fetched to suggest that the theft to suggest the theft of his former Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney's phone, was in any way linked to the release of files on Lord Mandelson. Why is he acknowledging that publicly? There he is, head in hand. I think this could be his Watergate, and people are telling me this morning I'm wrong. I think this could unseat him, Isabel.
I read that message differently to you, Jezza. I can't see the full message, just what you flashed up on the screen there, but I don't think he's acknowledging that Morgan McSweeney's tale is far-fetched. I think he's accusing the media of making a false link there.
Oh, that's what I meant. That's what I meant. If I gave the wrong impression there, absolutely. He has said that it's a little far-fetched to suggest the theft of his former Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, was any way linked to the release. No, he's absolutely saying to media outlets like us and newspapers who would dare, like the front of the Daily Mail, handily timed disappearance of his phone, said the excellent Guy Adams. No, this is Starmer going, why are you all thinking that? That's outrageous.
It's not far-fetched at all. I mean, when you said breaking news, I just had this, little hope in my heart that was very fleeting, that Starmer might have resigned or something like that.
I thought they might have found his phone somewhere in Luton.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. What do I know?
No, instead, all we've got is the weakest Prime Minister in living memory and well beyond living memory, now saying, oh, there's nothing to see here. Are you kidding me? There's a massive smoking gun here. You've got a fake stolen phone situation, in my opinion. And I think there are so many bits of this that give the game away. But the first bit of it is that he didn't say who he was and why this mattered. And that was a dereliction of duty, by the way, because if it was his work phone, I'm going to come back to the point, it could have been a foreign intelligence asset that had stolen it. So not to say who he was and what was on that phone, I think was negligent in the extreme.
Great question from Sally Ann. I don't know the answer to this. Did Morgan McSweeny lose his phone after he left government? Because surely he would have handed his phone back before he left. I don't think he was still there, was he, when this took place?
Yeah, he would have been still there.
Listen, the questions aren't going to go away. It's just extraordinary. 0344 499 1000. If you're just tuning in, Morgan McSweeny and the missing phone drama. It's on every newspaper. Breaking news, Sir Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister, has just said it's a little bit far-fetched for anybody to suggest that the theft of his former Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney's phone, was in any way linked to the release of the files on Lord Mandelson. Those are the very files that Keir Starmer tried to stop the public seeing and say, I'll decide what's going to be released. And then, of course, the whole of the Commons, including his own MP, said you can't do that. So he had to accede on that. So I'm not believing too much. There's so much attached to this story. Quick voice note. You'll love this, Isabel. Matt, good morning.
Hello, Jezza. Matt in Warrington, loading a van. Bit chilly today. So McSweeny had his phone pinched in Belgravia, in the middle of London, on a set date. Was it 28th of October? Surely it'll take about 5 minutes to check the CCTV to see if he was actually had his phone stolen. The plot thickens. I'm sure some CCTV will prove him right, though, because this Labour government, they're not corrupt. They're as honest as the day is long, aren't they? Not. Cheers, guys.
And that, for all the people who say, well, why are you digging at Starmer again? Because, do you know why? Tell me if you agree with this as a journalist. The thing about Starmer and this government is they made such a play, didn't they, about grown-up government, country before party, those horrible, sleazy Tory wets. And I didn't disagree with that. And I think, as somebody who was as fed up with the Tories as you were, I wanted this government that won fair and square in a democratic fight to be good. But I just find it impossible to find the words on a daily basis about how incompetent. But incompetence is now superseded by duplicity, and people can see it, Isabel.
It is absolutely astonishing. And no one of your callers listed some of the stuff earlier. I mean, you know, there've been so many scandals. I've almost forgotten about Lord Ali and the clothes and the his son being accommodated in Lord Ali's apartment so he could revise for his GCSEs and all of that, which was right at the beginning of Starmer's new, you know, we're going to be a fresh, new, honest government thing. And so many other astonishing things have happened since then that we've all almost forgotten it. We haven't even had the trial of those accused of setting fire to Starmer's car, which is one hell of a story. And
didn't they set fire to his front door as well?
Yeah, I mean, people have been charged, so we have to be a bit careful about what we say.
It was the front door, not the back door, though, wasn't it?
Why does that keep getting pushed into the long grass? Question mark, question mark.
No
you know,
idea.
there's oh my God, it's all so murky, isn't it?
And I think that's the point. Can I just tell you very quickly some other breaking news? Those two men I announced on the show yesterday who were arrested in connection with that vile Golders Green arson attack have actually been released on bail overnight. The Metropolitan Police have just told us a 47 and 45-year-old man held yesterday on suspicion of connection with that Golders Green arson attack have just been released on police bail. And the other breaking news, Sir Keir Starmer has just told us that it's a little bit far-fetched to suggest that Morgan McSweeny losing his phone, he was carrying two and the work one was nicked, 3 days after investigation was launched. All the messages have been wiped. He didn't say he worked as Chief of Staff and it had really sensitive information. and he was a friend of Mandelson, but Starmer says that's a little bit far-fetched, the media and other people to be talking about that. Can I ask you about Prime Minister's Question Time yesterday? Because I, for one, have become that boring. I've started watching it, and I love the way that Julia deals with it. Can I just say, 2 questions. Kemi Badenoch missed the point yesterday, and it's something that quite a few newspapers have picked up upon this morning. She wanted to talk about drilling, the extraordinary moment where Starmer said it's up to Miliband. Really? Sack him and get somebody that's got some common sense then. But nothing about... I mean, I'd have been on him about this story and nothing else 6 times. What did you make of her performance, Isabel?
So she quite often does this, and I feel that on a fairly regular basis she chooses the wrong topic. I do think she's getting better at her performances there. And in the event, it was quite revelatory, wasn't it? Because Starmer said, well, it's up to Miliband what happens. And that tells you everything you need to know about where we're headed, which is
tells us everything about who controls the government, doesn't it? But I also wanted to touch upon the Reform Party. I mean, I believe that Prime Minister's Question Time should allow a question from every leader, and I mean that in an open and democratic way. I think it's wrong that it's just the opposition. I think the Scottish National Party, I genuinely think that everybody should be able to ask a question, not that he bothers to answer them. But Nigel Farage stood up and asked a perfectly reasonable question about the numbers of people that have come into this country illegally, and does the Prime Minister basically have a plan B? And Starmer, with utter contempt, completely ignored him, talked about some council numbers, called them a disgrace, and Reform en masse walked out. Petulant or a good thing to do?
So this was not a planned stunt, and I've heard some suggestions it was. It absolutely was not. I've been watching Prime Minister's questions now for something like, I don't know, 15 years or something ridiculous like that. And it's fair to say that all Prime Ministers of all parties have always tried to find ways to slightly circumvent the question. But Starmer has taken this to a whole new level, and it's got worse in recent weeks. And it has come to the point where Nigel Farage, and it tends to be him, although there are others that are the victim of this, will ask a question, and Keir Starmer doesn't even acknowledge the question. He just goes off on something completely different. Well, in that case, what is the point of Prime Minister's questions? It is simply bad theatre with terrible performances that don't deserve an audience. And I think Reform has come to the end of their tether on this one. It is insulting to the nation, frankly, for Keir Starmer to treat this weekly interaction with this level of contempt, because he's not answering. Here's the thing. What doesn't he realise about the fact that he's not answering questions from Nigel Farage? Nigel Farage is representing an awful lot of people when he asks those questions. So in treating Reform's leaders with such contempt, Starmer is actually treating voters with contempt.
I have to say, and this isn't me in any way being pro or anti anything, but you're insulting millions of people who have made it quite clear in the last 217, opinion polls that they favour reform. And I just watched them yesterday, and there's this sort of sinking realisation that you're trying to do your job and it's being poo-pooed. I'd be looking at those Labour benches thinking, you make all the noise you want, because at the end of the day, you won't be here in 3 years' time. Just finally, one quick word from you. Junior doctors are about to strike for 6 days in April. That'll be the 15th strike in 3 years. They've already had 28%. Do you agree with me? Some people think this is outrageous. I would make it legal. I would make it illegal for them to strike, like the police and like the army. I think it's an absolute disgrace and highlights completely the inadequacy of Wes Streeting when he did this job and negotiated.
Well, we were promised by this Labour government, weren't we, that there would be an end to junior doctors striking, and there's been nothing of the sort. I'm much more hardline than you on this, Jezza. When it comes to striking, I don't think that the London Underground people should be allowed to strike either. There are certain things that are critical to our functioning as a nation, and people die when doctors strike. That said, we need to pay them properly, create a deal, as Donald Trump would say, and that's the end of it. End the right to strike for doctors.
Couldn't agree more. Lovely to have you on. Thank you. And just keep hold of your mobile phone today, OK? Because there are people about that will have all that sensitive information. Wipe your messages and take your burner phone that you use for those other deals with you. Is that all right?
I'll do that. Note to self.
Lovely. Great to have you on. Thank you, Isabel Oakeshott, 7:22. Morning, Ben.
Ben from Birmingham. Farage walking out of PMQs yesterday. I don't blame him. You know what? Kemi Badenoch and all the rest of them should have done the same. The complete contempt that Starmer treats that position with and those questions with is an absolute disgrace. He's never answered a single thing. It's the same week in, week out. He's got no respect for the public or giving them answers to anything they want to know. He's an absolute disgusting man. And I watched some Labour talking head try and justify the Prime Minister. Nigel Farage did right. It's a shame everyone else didn't follow him. Well, none of them turn up because it's a waste of time because he won't answer anything. Great show.
Welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
That's Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McCounts.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle's from Suits, and that's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beers, and I feel
raising the flag, I think, is symptomatic of this desperation.
Is public transport good value for money?
No, it isn't.
You really don't like speaking to people.
UK on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 7:28. We're live across the UK. You're welcome to Talk Breakfast. You're welcome. It's JK till 10. The home of common sense, the home of free speech. Before we continue, because you are up in arms about the phone theft, there aren't many people in this business that I'm in awe of. My mate Chris Evans is one of them. Right now, you have my permission to go over to Virgin Radio if you come back. He's holding a phone in auction, raising money for the Carfest charities. It's an extraordinary thing that Chris has put on for years. It really has raised millions for underprivileged people. It's your chance to bid on a pair of weekend tickets to Carfest 26, a 3-night hotel stay. It's a fantastic thing. You can basically join in the phone auction from 7:15, so you got for half an hour, you got another half an hour, 8:15 and 9:15. There is a number, I'll give it to you. You won't be able to as you drive in, but you can get some details on Virgin, but you have to come back. You can ring if you're at home at 0207 782 777. It's an extraordinary thing. The competition's only running till 10. This man, who is, to me, a god in terms of broadcasting, has given so much, and Carfest 26 will be, like all the other Carfests, an extraordinary example. It's your chance. You can go online to 1264for26.com for all the details, but seriously, get involved if you can. But if you're going over to Virgin Radio, I mean, I might, during the break, pop in and have a thing, come back. Well, I might not have a pee. I might just go and see him. But seriously, a legend, and he's doing a great, great job. Morning, Wayne.
Morning, Jezza. It's Wayne from Erdington in Birmingham. Sorry my call's a bit late, mate. I'd misplaced my handset. Keep up the good work, Jezza, baby.
If you're waking up and wondering what the hell's going on, let me just, I'm afraid, do it again. You know Mandelson, the dodgy bloke who's been fired again, having been fired twice before, who somehow reincarnated himself and became the UK's ambassador to the US, when it all dramatically fell down because nobody had checked the closeness of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, the world's worst paedophile, the light was shone on how the process had worked. And it transpired that Morgan McSweeny, the chief of staff, the ex-chief of staff, because he's fallen on his sword, of one said Keir Starmer, was not only a close friend of Mandelson and suggested him, but personally carried out the vetting process because he was a friend of his, and then said to Starmer, give him the job, and Starmer went, okay. And when it went wrong and Mandelson was sacked and we as taxpayers had to pay 75 grand, an investigation was launched. I give you this story because, as the Daily Mail front page, the amazing Guy Adams mentions, the curious case of the number 10 chief, his WhatsApp messages to Mandelson, and the handily timed disappearance of his phone. You see, just a few days, sounds like Jack Anori, a few days after the investigation was announced, McSweeny lost his mobile. He lost his mobile, tragically, in a part of London that wasn't where he said it was. And they've released overnight this transcript. And this transcript basically says that he didn't at any point mention that he was the chief of staff of the Prime Minister and that there was sensitive information. He had two phones and they nicked the office one, and it wasn't backed up because they have disappearing messages, and Belgrave Street's not where I said it was, but I'm being very honest. He no longer is the chief of staff, but this turns yet more pressure on Keir Starmer, who there's a sort of rising fury because MPs are going, well, he needs to testify. Well, what the hell's going on? This morning, the Cabinet Office said, oh, well, we found some of them. Where the hell did you find them then? Down the back of the... It's too dodgy, right? Starmer, 20 minutes ago, he has said, and I quote, it's a little bit far-fetched, is it not, for media outlets to suggest that the theft of my former chief of staff, Morgan McSweeny, could in any way be linked to the release of the files on Lord Mandelson. I mean, that's absolutely outrageous. Not... Good morning, James Price.
Good morning, Jezza Baby, as one of your previous callers in called you. I didn't know you had a new sobriquet for that.
No, don't. And you're looking very smart. You look like you're going on a shoot. Can I just, without over-egging it, right? There was a call just now from a woman who said, how much more can this man survive? I understand his little bit far-fetched tweet this morning. I get all of that. But if you strip this down, and the amazing Dan Hodges and Guy Adams, this isn't talk going off on one. These are seasoned journalists who smell blood. Because let's put this to you, Mr. Price. So you were walking along the road with two phones, yeah? You're playing Morgan McSweeny.
Right,
you were walking along the
going
road.
wrong.
Yeah, you were walking...
And by the way, I'm walking in a dodgy part of town because I've been soft on crime as chief of staff. Yeah. And I'm not looking around at my surroundings. Good start. Yeah.
Okay, and you have two phones, is that right?
Yes, sir.
But it was the work one that was stolen.
Funny that.
Yeah, and your messages aren't kept on that. How long? So it's disappearing messages, yeah?
Apparently so.
And you haven't got Find Your Phone on your government phone. And you're not going to tell me that I'd have gone, I'm the chief of staff, it's sensitive. That's what I don't get, Jay. I don't get it.
You know, it's absolutely extraordinary. I mean, there's all sorts in this which just proves, I mean, as far as anyone can know, that this is, what would Churchill call it? That he's committing a terminological inexactitude that some people might go so far as to call porky pies. The weirdest thing for me is that, you know, even if this were an unfortunate cover-up, not a cover-up, sorry, it was an unfortunate accident.
Coincidence, yes.
If you're walking along and you're playing on your phone, and lots of people in London have done this, right? We've seen so many videos where you're playing, you know, you're texting your missus or whatever, and your phone gets snatched out of your hand. if it's unlocked whilst you're doing it, they can get at all sorts of stuff, right? And that's what they'll try and do, because you're actually engrossed in your phone as you go, and it gets snatched out of your hand. If that's the case, then you've let some hoodlum get access to all kinds of government stuff. And you would think that anybody with half a brain, half a piece of decency to them, even if you knew that there was all this, dodgy stuff about Mandelson and stuff on there, that maybe having some underworld scumbag having access to the Prime Minister and all these other things might take precedence. And in a just world, the consequences of that and not reporting it would be even higher than the consequences of breaking all these rules and conventions to get your dodgy mate in as ambassador to the United States. It's extraordinary. And I just wonder whether, it's the old phrase about Watergate, it's not the crime, it's the cover-up. But the crimes of putting Mandelson in place seem pretty bad as well. It's such a dog's dinner.
It's just extraordinary to me that and people will say to me, you're like a dog with a bone. I am like a dog with a bone on this, because at the time when I was a little bit pro Boris and I didn't realise the depth of which he'd failed, these people quite rightly, take my word there, he and Chancellor Reeves and all these people held him to his feet to the fire with Johnson. They really did. They talked about lies. They talked about disappearing WhatsApp messages during COVID. They talked about loads of stuff. Well, the view from the cheap seats is really easy. And I'm not sticking up for Boris Johnson, but you live by the sword, you die by the sword. I watched him yesterday with his head in his hands. I read that breaking tweet this morning where he says it's a little bit far-fetched to suggest the theft of my former Chief of Staff's mobile phone is in any way linked to the files on Lord Mandelson. There's a picture on screen of him yesterday in the Commons with his head in his hands. I'm going to be really honest. Somebody said he's more Teflon than Trump. This goes to the very root cause. This is beyond lies. This is taking the British public for mugs, in my humble opinion. That's my opinion, nobody else's. I think this will be his Watergate. This, in my mind, will unseat Keir Starmer.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that there are Labour MPs who are now starting to say this as well. Is it Carl Turner, who very bravely has defied the whip on the disgusting taking away of our ancient liberty of jury trials?
Good man, Carl Turner, proper MP. Don't have to agree with him, comes on this show, puts Labour's side. Total respect for Carl Turner.
Yeah, I agree. I did a little bit with him when I was in government, and he's one of the few socialists with whom I'd like to go for a beer with. He's a good bloke. Not sure the same can be said for many of his colleagues right now, but, we live in hope on these things. There is something here about the way that modern political communications works, right? Everybody is on WhatsApp all the time. Actually, most special advisors, of which Morgan McSweeny was one, obviously not me, will use their personal phones for all kinds of government business because it's harder to get freedom of information requests on your personal phone. It's easier for you to delete things on your personal phone and all the rest of it so that you can't give them up to inquiries and things, I'm told. So it's even weird that McSweeny was stupid enough to be doing whatever dodgy business he was doing on the government phone. And I'm sure that our friends in Cheltenham or in other bits of the deep state will be able to get this stuff up if they want to.
Well, that was the thing overnight. This is the thing that really got our goat this morning at 5:30. Overnight, the Cabinet Office has announced that it's retrieved some of the emails and text messages. Some. So where from? And if you can get some, you're going to be accused, you idiots, of exactly what you were accused when he said, I didn't. That is blatantly. And my point is this: what are you saying to the British public? We think you're so stupid, you mug. You're going to buy that. Well, I'm telling you, the British public won't anymore, and that's not an outrageous thing to say. It's the realisation that we are being treated with contempt. And actually, Jay, you know what I think about politics like you. This is another kick in the whatsits for people who might have started to be switched on, because they'll just go, they all lie, they're all the same, they're a waste of space. Why do I even bother having an interest?
Yeah, you're completely right. It's fun kind of Westminster gossip at one level. At another level, it's very serious because exactly as you say, this is how the people who are ruling over us think about the rest of us, but it also means they're going to spend all their time thinking about this. They're not going to be thinking about Iran, not going to be thinking about the energy crisis, not going to be thinking about the huge amounts of debt that they're shouldering us and future generations with, the fact that Britain isn't safe, the fact that there have been ambulances set fire to and the guy's released on bail, the fact there are probably all sorts of other dodgy Iranian IRGC guys, not to mention the Muslim Brotherhood kicking around doing things, not to mention the Chinese spying on us, probably on that same phone that Morgan McSweeny pretends to have lost. They're not focusing on any of this stuff. They're focusing short term on just trying to keep Sir Shifty alive. And I think that after the local elections, when Labour rightly get absolutely pummeled, he'll be gone. But we still have got, what's that, like a month and a half or something? It reminds me of that bit in The Simpsons where Mr. Burns, the old guy in The Simpsons, very, very poorly, and a doctor explains to him by using a door frame that he has every illness going, and they're all sort of stuck in the door frame, and not one of them can get through to kill him. And he thinks, that means I'm indestructible. Like, no, Keir Starmer, you have so many scandals, so many times you've lied, so many U-turns, that the Cabinet are now just waiting for the 7th of May to push one of those things through, and you will be gone, and you will go down as the most ineffective, mendacious Prime Minister we've ever had. And that's saying something.
Couple of things before you go, brilliantly put as ever. Yesterday during Prime Minister's Question Times, I think she misses the boat sometimes, and I thought yesterday was a prime example. You're nodding, you're a Tory. I think Badenoch should have been on this in his face. She wanted to talk about drilling. He then, of course, announces, it's not my decision about whether we drill, that's down to the Energy Secretary. And I'm like, well, you're the Prime Minister. Sack him and put your foot down. You're trying to, there's the asset. That would help the people in your country. But did she miss the point yesterday, Jay?
I mean, I think the logic of the leading opposition's team is if you push on these bread and butter issues, then the people in the country will see that this is what you care about. You're on their side, as opposed to all the politicians who are doing the sort of insider baseball, insider Westminster stuff. I can see some logic to that, but she does get 6 questions, and so it'd be nice to see. Let's do 3 on the kick Keir Starmer point. Although it might be wasted ammunition given that he is absolutely gone. I think after May at this point, and 3 on the other. As you were saying with Isabel Oakeshott, it's not like he answers any of the damn questions.
Well,
anyway.
you're a parliamentarian. You're a parliamentarian. Are we now at a point where the Speaker should grow a pair and start making it known that the Prime Minister needs to answer the Prime Minister's questions, or there's no point to it? And I don't, people are saying that the reform thing was petulant. I don't blame them. I don't. Why, if you're going to be sit there and derided and not have a question, go and work with your constituents or do something else. I genuinely think that, having watched it.
Yeah, I think to separate what I would like and what I think then should happen, obviously I think the Prime Minister should answer the questions as all ministers should, and very few of them do. And I think it would be totally constitutionally appropriate for Sir Lindsay Hoyle to speak up and say, it's not, I've got no power to make them do this. Obviously, I would like to see them answer questions. But ultimately, I think that the public should see that this guy can't even answer some basic questions. With all the power and apparatus of the state behind him, the whole morning spent in preparation for it, the huge binder that you can see in front of him, his PPS sat behind him with another binder, whispering answers Grima Wormtongue style into his ear. He still can't do any of that. The public can see that, and they will vote him out at some point. And I think that is our mechanism for holding these people to account. Unfortunately, it just means we're going to have to suffer through more Labour for a few more years. But my God, please, can we remember this is what happens every time you get socialists like this into government. Please, please, God, let this be the last bunch of socialists we ever have in government.
You know what's so interesting about that, Jay, and we're mates, is that I remember during the election campaign, you know what Purdah is with broadcasting, I'm sitting there every day as I look at these polls and I'm thinking, I was alive in 79 and people always laugh. I was 14. I remember rubbish on the streets and green goddesses. I remember unions getting 30% of walking out. I know that this government is going to promise the earth to every one of its union mates, and they will skint us and their morality will disappear. You're right. And if what we have to go through will prove to the nation that this should never happen again. But, let's be honest, we face an election next time where the Green Party has garnered huge response and could amalgamate with Keir Starmer's party, because it probably won't be his by then, and force another 5 years. Just going back to Starmer to finish, JP, is this the biggest scandal of all the scandals that he has faced since he became Prime Minister?
No, I don't actually even think so. I think there have been so many others. I think for me, it's the Chagos Islands. I think it's the fact that he's fallen for all this complete, I almost said a rude word, this complete nonsense, and has been trying to give away sovereign British territory and tens of billions of pounds at the same time. And what's happened? It's opened up the door that there was a vote in the United Nations last night, Ghana pushing for this, to make it so that we're going to have a load of reparations coming at some point now. We'll have to pay reparations for the crime of slavery, and Ghana was pushing this. And the United Kingdom abstained on that vote. Of course, Russia and China voted in favour of it. The fact that we abstained means that both Starmer and Yvette Cooper, the Foreign Secretary, should resign over this. And I think, in fact, instead we should probably send Ghana a bill for all the blood and treasure it cost us as we ended the slave trade in the United Kingdom. That's what I think the biggest scandal is, of opening this stuff up on the big scale. The other big scandal is, just really quickly, you mentioned the trade unions. I can't let this go. That they are trying in Labour to push through, stealthily, a new measure in a bill that will allow trade unions in to every small company with, I think, more than 20 employees in the whole country. Can you imagine the power that would give these trade unions? Absolutely reprehensible. Just let people get on with their damn lives and leave us alone, Starmer.
And it's interesting, you know, when they came in and they talked about growth, they've destroyed small businesses by increasing NI, by increasing the minimum wage and workers' rights and all that. That's a fact. Now they're going to allow unions to infiltrate small business. They are not, I don't care what anybody says, you can drag me out. They're not the party of growth. They're the party of self-interest. You're a legend. We love the country look. We love the light shining on those.
My halo.
The halo. You look. Gee, I don't want you to say it's the wrong way, but somehow this morning with the light, it looks like your hair's been slicked back like some sort of film star. Good man. We love you, JP. Thank you very much indeed. Talk Breakfast is on 8:45. Is that Phil? Morning, Phil.
So, good morning, Jeremy. What a lovely show. Phil, part of Alarm Clock Britain here. Jez, I've got a bill to pay to Inland Revenue, but I can't pay it because I've had my phone nicked. I don't know where it was or where it's gone, and I don't know who's got it, but some bloke on a bike nicked it.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You know, when you do the show like we do every day, you start with stories and you think, well, we'll move on. You won't let us move on. Front page of the Daily Mail. Guy Adams investigates the curious case of number 10 chief, his WhatsApps to Mandelson and the handily timed disappearance of his phone. Guy Adams and the excellent Dan Hodges are behind this. They smell blood. They won't let him off the hook. Dan Hodges, a busy man, has just agreed to come on the show at 9:15. All this Morgan McSweeny stuff. I had 2 phones. I didn't have my messages on. You don't have tracker. I know it was 3 days after I was summoned. I know we found some, but I can't find them all. Led to Sir Keir Starmer, if you're just waking up, coming out this morning and saying, it's a little bit far-fetched of the media or anybody else to suggest that the theft of my former Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney's phone, is in any way linked. Why did I do that? To the release of the files on Lord Peter Mandelson. He's squealing already. Morning, Sean.
Morning, Jeremy. Sean from Grimsby here. This Morgan McSweeny phone scandal, it just gets more ridiculous by the day, doesn't it? And the government say, oh, nothing to see here. Of course there's not. Do they really think that we're going to believe that it got nicked? Absolutely no chance. When it looks like a cover-up and smells like a cover-up, then it's a cover-up. Great show, Jeremy.
Brilliant. Morning to Tim. He says, do we know any other MPs with government phones? Yeah, they'll all be set up the same. So they're all unprotected and incapable of being found. Doesn't it say a lot about the security of this country? Morning to Don in Chelmsford. Starmer can't answer a question without telling us so well he's handled the war. Oh, and Miliband's basically in charge. Yep, Kev's in Stafford. I really do think you're missing the point on junior doctors striking, Jez. It turns out the 6 days are immediately after Easter, thereby extending their Easter break by an extra week. Jeez. Zarina, has this government improved our lives? I think I must have blinked and missed it. No, they haven't improved our lives. They haven't done anything. Ben in Camberley. Why have I done that? Sorry. With regards to McSweeney's stolen phone, surely the police can check the location of his personal phone at the time of the alleged crime. Just an idea. Very good. See? It's not going away, this. Does that mean that the one that he had that wasn't nicked, that turned out to be his personal one, that was lucky, wasn't it? Did that also have disappearing messages on it? Did that also have a tracker switched off? God, it doesn't go anywhere, does it? Great show as usual. Thus, stolen phone. Don't you think the thief would check what's on the phone to see if there's anything there to make money from? It would be a Trevor trove, says Gary in Leeds. Unless, of course, he couldn't get into it. God. Right, I'm changing tack. I know what you want to talk about is that, but you're going to have 10 minutes of the other thing that you love. Migration. Woo! The number of asylum seekers in taxpayer-funded accommodation for over a year, this will surprise you, has surged by 40% since Keir Starmer became Prime Minister. That's a figure of over 37,000, meaning that 10,000 extra people are now being housed by the Home Office. So this is asylum seekers in taxpayer-funded accommodation surging by 40%. We're delighted to say good morning to the former Minister for Futures, Borders and Immigration, Kevin Foster. Good morning. How are you?
Not too bad, Jeremy. How are you?
I'm very good. It's been a while. Damien, who's an essential part of this show, said, good chap. He's got a picture of Thatcher on the wall. Is that right?
Yeah, I got Margaret that way, and I've got Churchill that way, which is painted by one of my wife's relatives from the famous picture of him that was taken.
And you've just admitted on national television that you've got two of your heroes on the wall, but not a picture of your wife. Kev, no longer an MP. Are you eyeing a comeback? Are you missing it, or have you moved on?
Oh, look, I've got this enjoyable media work I do, consultancy work I do, and enjoying that. I must say, I'm not missing the weekly commute up and down to London. But, Jeremy, when you've done it, when you care about issues and you see what's going on currently, the country's clearly in a difficult place. We've got a parliament that all too often represents a student union. And where this week, big issues on energy bills, and the leader of the third party decided to show us how he can make a Victoria sponge. Well, great, but that's really not going to pay anyone's bills, resolve an issue. So, yeah, there's still an interest there, but obviously we'll have to see, when we get closer to the election, whether it's something I want to pick up and do. But also, what is it we actually want to do? I think certainly, and those of us on the centre-right of politics, do really need to think to ourselves, what is it we want to do? If there is a majority in the next parliament, centre-right parties, or for one or for two together, we can Conservative and Reform, what is it we actually want to do? Because we cannot risk a rerun of this parliament where someone got in, got lots of seats, and then sort of looked around and said, actually, what do I want to do?
But this isn't personal. I'm just giving you a fact that I give to every MP on every side. That's on you lot. That there is real anger still, and I genuinely think Kemi Badenoch's doing a much better job than the last leader, and I think it might sadly turn out that she's the right leader at the wrong time. But the British public had stopped listening to the Tory party, and that allowed this shower of to get in. I am amazed, and even I'm amazed, and I'm old enough to remember the 79, that they came with no plan, no structure whatsoever. This Morgan McSweeny thing, yet another example. But let's talk specifically to you, Futures, Borders and an Immigration Minister. We're going to smash the gangs. Nearly 70,000 people have come into this country since Keir Starmer became Prime Minister. Taxpayer-funded accommodation surges by 40% in 18 months. He is no nearer any answers at all. But the difference, and I do feel this very strongly, Kev, is that the silent majority have woken up. They won't accept this anymore. They're going to work, hard-working Brits from this show. They're paying their taxes. They're on the breadline. They're just about managing, and they see and hear stories that make their stomachs turn. And I understand that.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. And the reality is, smash the gangs was a slogan, not a strategy. I can remember listening to their shadow in opposition constantly saying it. It was a simple, easy answer. And actually, to be fair, it's similar to when Rishi Sunak came out with "Stop the Boats," and myself and others used to regularly think, well, great slogan, but come on, where's the really detailed work-through strategy here? Whereas you look at, for example, Australia and the United States that have dealt with similar issues, particularly most recently the US southern border, but dealt by the Trump administration. There wasn't really a catchy slogan, but there was a work-through strategy to do so. And that's open to, this government to pick up. I doubt Keir Starmer would, but we can certainly see the signs from the Home Secretary that she does get the idea that there's a need for a more comprehensive strategy. The problem is, did you rightly say, many people across the country are just fed up with this. It's the unfairness of it, seeing that, we're potentially talking welfare cuts to services, welfare, tax rises, because of what we're going to have to do in response to rising tensions in the world around our military. And then you see a guy just basically jump out of a boat and get sent off to fully funded accommodation, courtesy of the British taxpayer, with us seemingly unable to enforce our border by
plus
getting rid of
also
them.
from last week, Kev, be given £40,000 tax-free to return to the country that you loathe so much that you came here, deposit the money and come back. And you can sit, you and I, because we talk about this a lot, and other people involved in the media, can sit and go round and round on this. But I do not, I've said this till I'm blue in the face, I do not understand how there is either the intelligence or the will, on whatever side it is, to do what is needed, which is to stop these people arriving in this country, whether you use the Royal Navy, whether you recondition a big liner, my idea, full of a team that you teach, a crack team, you process yourself on the water within 24 hours, red carpet if they're fine. If not, you're not going to live in a house or a hotel paid for by people who are struggling. You're going to a detention centre, which, and this might sound awful, isn't going to be a holiday camp, because it might just make you text your friends back from wherever you've come from and say, they're not the soft touch they are. I think we are soft, but the difference now for me, Kev, is the British public have woken up to that, and that's a major difference to me.
Yeah, I think the debate's moved on hugely. If we were 5 years ago having some of the debates that we're having now about, for example, things like the ECHR, there wouldn't have been the public appetite for the type of changes needed. I think you're right that now there is. But the biggest thing that would resolve this is, again, what you've seen, partly what the US has done and what Australia did before it, is it's not just a sight of things going on in the Channel. It's the sight of people being returned, being removed, not getting the immigration status in the UK. That was the thing they hoped to get when they paid a smuggling gang to get them to the UK. Now, you can do that with some countries via more returns back, by changing the law so that there's less opportunities to game the modern slavery system, game some of the rights under the ECHR, some of the rather ridiculous judgments we've seen, most notoriously things like the chicken nuggets case, where apparently someone's human rights are infringed by not getting their kid not getting the right type of chicken nugget. Clearly not what was envisaged in the 1940s when that treaty was drawn up. So that makes it easy to get people out. But it's also, where are you going to send people? Because one of the countries that's
haven't got long, bud. Not trying to rush you, but got 30 seconds. Just wrap it for me. Do you think that this government can deal with this issue very quickly?
No, I don't think Keir Starmer can at all. He's a human rights lawyer at instinct. He won't do the stuff that's necessary. What will be interesting to see is if a future Labour leader decides they do need to act on this, because they can't go into a general election and win it if they're fighting it on immigration and their current record on the boats.
Sorry it's rushed, but great to have you on. Kevin Foster, former Minister for Future Borders and Immigration. Talk breakfast.
conflict breaks out anywhere in the world, it has consequences here at home. Talk War is your definitive national security briefing. From the conflict in Ukraine to the tensions in Gaza and the latest escalation with Iran, this is where you'll find comprehensive comment and expert analysis with multiple updates throughout the day. The Talk War podcast from Talk, available on the Talk app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk. Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back or welcome along. It's a fantastic Thursday. The sun is shining, there's a spring in my step, and my hat is at a jaunty angle because, yet again, the news is just like pennies from heaven. This is Talk Breakfast, the home of common sense, the home of you, the alarm clock Brit. You can be involved, your views on the news of the day, 0344 419 1000 and text to 87222. It falls to me to just tell you about the main news story of the day, or rather well summed up by the excellent Guy Adams at the top of the Mail, where he says, the curious case of number 10 chief, the X1, his WhatsApp messages to Mandelson and the handily timed disappearance of the phone. It's my responsibility to tell you what's happened overnight. You see, Morgan McSweeny was the chief of staff of Keir Starmer. He pulled all the levers. He was the man that made the Muppet that is Starmer do what Starmer does. Anyway, he was friends with Mandelson. You know, the one whose best mate was the pedo? Anyway, so he was mates with him, and then there was a vacancy in America to be ambassador. So Morgan went, I think Pete would be great. And Starmer went, OK. And he said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll do the vetting. That would be fair. And he went, OK, do that. So Sweeney did the vetting. Mandelson gets the job. And then all hell breaks loose because it turns out that his relationship with the worst paedophile in the land, Jeffrey Epstein, I'm doing quite well so far, was actually closer than they thought. So everybody went, oh, my God, this is a nightmare. And Mandelson had to resign. I don't know, apparently Starmer sacked him. Did Morgan McSweeny get... I don't know. He gets 75 grand of our money. He disappears off in disgrace, and then the spotlight's on Sweeney. Because they're going, well, how much did you know? Why would you have suggested this man? We need to check this out in an investigation. We need to see your phone. Oh, then's the thing. 3 days after that, he lost his phone. Now, this has been reported in the papers this morning, the whole story, but basically he was walking... He's not quite sure where in London. It could have been Tower Hamlets or it could have been Pimlico. And he did have two phones in his hand. One was a work one and one was a personal one, but luckily it was the work one. Now, on the work one, his messages disappeared and it wasn't tracked. And when he rang the police, he didn't think it would be a wise idea to say, I'm one of the most powerful men in England and on that phone is quite a lot of sensitive information. No, no, no. This morning, because most of us with a brain cell are going, it's a bit weird. The Cabinet Office have said, we found some of them. What? We found some messages. Not all of them. Right, well, which ones have you... what? But on the back of all of this pressure, and we've been on this since 6, the Prime Minister has spoken. Oh, yes, he said, it's a little bit far-fetched, isn't it, to suggest the theft of my former Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney's phone, is in any way linked to the release of the files on Lord Mandelson. The telephone call that took part between the police and Morgan McSweeny on the day of the... there's Starmer with his head in his hands. Yeah. The whole transcript has been released to the public, so we thought it a bit of fun if two thespians in our show, Dodgy Damien and Callous Cal, reenacted just the first part. There's the gruff policeman and Morgan McSweeny. Please enjoy courtesy of the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show.
Police, what's your emergency?
Oh, hello. Someone just robbed my phone.
Did they actually take it from you just now?
Yeah.
How did they get away?
So he's on a bike, he's come onto the pavement to grab my phone and cycled off on a bike.
And where did this happen?
It happened in Belgrave Street in Westminster.
And whose phone are you using now?
I've got two phones. I'm using my personal one. That was my work one.
Can I take the phone number for this phone you're calling on?
Yeah. 07 beep.
Thank you. And you said Belgrave Street, yeah?
Yeah, just kind of going back to the location.
Don't put yourself at any risk. It's not worth it over a phone. I appreciate it's frustrating. And which way did they go towards? Is this suspect on a bike?
He travels north. I saw him a few blocks.
So where were you when you last saw him? Have you got any idea?
Yeah, so...
Did you get up to Stepney?
Let me tell you where I got to. I'm just going back to where I can. So he turned left. There's a park on the top of the road and he turned left there.
Stepney Green Park, OK.
Yeah, he turned left there.
It's not in Stepney, it's not in Pimlico. Honestly, I know it's a bit of fun, but that, my friends, that is not acting. That is the basis of the phone call. So many questions. Morning, Sean.
Jeremy, Sean and Leicester, how many times are we going to say this is the thing that's going to unseat him? This is going to get him sacked. It's lie after flipping lie. And that statement he's just put out about how it's got nothing to do with the Mandelson inquiry. That's why the phone was nicked. I cannot stand the fella. Absolutely. I've got all my friends that literally have voted Labour to jump onto this channel and listen to what you and the other presenters are saying about the absolute cluster that Labour are making of this country. Oh, God, mate, God. I love your show, but flipping out. You're going to put me into an early grave, Jeremy.
Great. 0344 499 1000. Sarah Vine, save me. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. You can't be killing your listeners, Jeremy. It's not good. It's not good for business.
There we go. Before we start, are we getting any of the animals of the Vine household to join us?
I mean, it's possible. It's possible. Cersei is around. Rocky, who's the other cat, has got a sore paw. So there may be some issues there. Muffin is on the sofa. I don't know where Florence is.
Brilliant. Lovely names. Sarah, in all of your... and I really salute Guy Adams from the Mail and also Dan Hodges. In all of your time, married, of course, to Michael Gove for many years, a cabinet minister. You've been the most extraordinary journalist, investigative, and you've written so much and you've seen and witnessed so much. And I'm not trying to overegg this, but I cannot let this go. It's not, and the smile tells it all, it's not just what I see as the duplicity, the holes in this story, the convenience, and all of that. The thing that is really riling my viewers and listeners this morning, Sarah, is... do they honestly think that the silent majority in this country is any more going to swallow what at best can be called BS? And I don't know other ways to put it. You can pick a hole in almost every part of this stolen phone story, can't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's the brass neck, isn't it? And it is also the fact that this is basically the dog ate my homework.
Yeah.
I'd like to tell you a story, which is that about 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, my son, who is Michael Gove's son, was robbed at knife point by two young gentlemen of the street. And they took his mobile phone. I rang the police. I said... you know, this is I said my name, explained who I was, and they were able to track the phone very efficiently and very quickly to a nearby council estate. We had some issues with it. We couldn't get into it because my son, being my son, had forgotten his Apple ID. But basically, if your phone is attached to your Apple ID, which pretty much all phones need to be these days, it's very easy to track. It is genuinely quite easy for the police to track it. They got the phone back. And, you know, he was just a kind of, you know, I think the police probably
Can I
thought...
ask you a very straight question? Did you say to the police, my son is the son of a high-ranking cabinet minister in this country?
Well, I mean, there would have been messages there between William and his dad, and you know, who knows what, you know, I don't know, there been something in there that somebody could have used. And so the police were very, you know, they didn't really... They just did what they do, which is that they tracked it. So if Morgan McSweeny had just said, look, you know, I'm Morgan McSweeny, this is kind of a sensitive phone, I'm sure they would have been able to track it, because these things are easily tracked.
Well, so the story that's so great for me, from my point of view, and I'll play the game with you. I've been playing since 6 because it's great. Look at the picture of Starmer with his head in his hands. He's walking down the road and he's got 2 phones. You know, not one.
That makes sense. No, that does make sense, because because you do have to have 2 phones.
But it's quite convenient. You've got a 50% chance of your person. But the work one's gone. We'll give him that.
But Jeremy, the work one is security imprinted up the wazoo. I mean, it's just on 27 different levels. They know that is why it's the work phone.
But but then the work phone is the only one in this story that has disappearing messages, maybe not, I don't know, but isn't tracked. But the other one did. I mean,
exactly.
Are you telling me they don't track government phones? Of course they must do. Yeah.
Of course they do. They have. Well, I mean, in my day, when I knew people who were in government, they used to have things stuck on the back of them. But I mean, it's just sort of it is. And he'd be better off dropping it down the loo, to be honest.
It does smack of Rebecca Vardy, this whole thing. Do you remember that, Rebecca Vardy? My phone's in the middle of the ocean and I knew nothing about it. And then you go on, and you just said when your son William's phone was nicked and Michael was in government, you said, look, I don't mean to be rude, but there could be. In the conversation that we reenacted, and it's much longer than that, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't mention that at that moment in time he was probably the most powerful man in the United Kingdom. But you
I can't remember the details of that phone call that I made, but when I made the phone call, the police, because most people who are in government or who have close contacts to government, they have a sort of little marker on their address, or you know, the police are vaguely aware that they are politically sensitive. So the police actually came round to the house, 2 of them, and so I explained to them face to face. So I mean, the police would have come to see Morgan. They would have come to say, you know, tell us the details. Do you know what I mean? Because of who he is. They wouldn't have just done it on the telephone.
And so everybody yesterday, as this story broke, was going, well, hold on a minute, there's a few holes here. Overnight, astonishing development, the Cabinet Office have, and I quote, retrieved some of them. Now, I'm not a techie. We've done the disappearing messages and the iCloud, and wouldn't they be on Mandelson's phone, and isn't that in police protection and whatever else? But they found some, which immediately causes thousands of people to contact me and go, right, so this is a bit like the usual stuff, isn't it? That you know, he didn't want to let the messages out, and then Parliament sort of erupted and he had to. And it does point the finger at a man, I think, very much so, who made a big play, quite rightly in many people's minds, about Boris Johnson and lost WhatsApp messages during the COVID inquiry and lying and standards, and it has come back. And the last caller, and I'll put to you, how much more are we having to take of a man who patently, if you looked at him yesterday, is either out of his depth, realises he's up an alley without a back street without whatever, or has just been found out, Sarah, because it's becoming almost ludicrous on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I said this before, we've talked about this before, it's very difficult to get rid of a sitting Prime Minister, and it's very, very difficult to get rid of
Tories did it quite well.
Well, but the Tories, in a funny kind of a way, are a much more sort of self-policing party. Yeah. The Labour Party won't get rid of him because he suits them. He's taking all the flack. He's a dead man walking.
Don't you think he goes after the council elections?
Well, I mean, maybe, but what are they going to replace him with, and what's the point of replacing him? That's the question you have to ask yourself. What's the point? What does it achieve? There's no election in the foreseeable future, so they're not.
I'm not sure I can put up with it anymore. I mean, do you know something that I can say to you, because I consider you a friend?
He's a zombie Prime Minister.
You're going to hate what I'm going to say. There are very, very small moments where I now look at him and I've started to feel sorry for how incompetent and useless he is. Literally. Literally. Let's talk about Prime Minister's Question Time. Because of your experience and because of what you write, is that becoming a joke that he doesn't answer? Not just because of Farage, but Kemi as well. Is it? Should something be done by the Speaker to insist that our Prime Minister does answer questions that are put to him?
It's becoming a sort of punch. Well, I mean, it has always been a Punch and Judy show, but it is actually now. I agree with you. It's starting to look like a cruelty, because the man is so incapable of standing up for himself or his party or his policies or his actions. He just has, you know, he doesn't know where to go or where to turn. I mean, I imagine it's like a sort of, it's a weekly tarring and feathering, and I can see how you feel sorry for him. But the thing is, what you must remember is that this is a man who desperately wanted to be Prime Minister, did everything to become Prime Minister, had no plan, and I think also had no concept of how difficult it is to actually run a country. It's very easy when you've got a government like the Tories who've been in power for 14 years to pick holes in them. You try doing it, and he's getting, you know, you try doing it. It's really not that easy, and he is making an absolute hash of it. You know, there's but the Labour Party itself. I mean, look at Rachel Reeves, look at David Lammy. They're no better. It's not like there's some sort of great sort of shining knight in armour and waiting in the wings to come and fix it all. There just isn't. I mean, you know, they're all useless.
I thought it was really telling as well that he stood up and he said, when questioned about Kemi about drilling in the North Sea and utilising what is undoubtedly a resource and would rid us of so much of our debt, he said that's up to the Secretary of State for Energy, Ed Miliband. I mean, how frightening is that?
It's not up to the Secretary of State, Ed Miliband, at all. It's up to you. You make a decision. Make a judgment call, Prime Minister. You know, actually, why don't you just, you know, make a judgment call? Say, look, OK, yes, people's bills are rising and we're going to have to, you know, taxpayers are going to have to pay more. Why don't we just do something that will help? I mean, there's...
Because he's hamstrung, because he can't do anything without their say-so, can he? In essence, I thought the point of that yesterday was that it showed exactly where the power is behind the throne.
He doesn't have any, I'm sorry, he doesn't have any cojones. That's the problem. And you need to have, you know, a sense of self and who you are. And he's totally all over the place.
Leadership's about having to deliver bad news as well as good news, isn't it? And make decisions that might not be popular.
Exactly. It's about doing the least bad thing. It's about doing the thing that makes the most sense at the moment. You know, it's like comedy. Politics is all about timing, and his timing is terrible. He can't get anything right, and everything he does, he's either chasing his tail or chasing events or chasing someone else. I don't know who's advising him now as well, because I suspect that a lot of what he did and said in the beginning or in the, you know, when he was winning the election was just taking dictation from Morgan McSweeny. And now that he's gone, he's got nobody to tell him what to think.
It is always a pleasure. I'm devastated the cats didn't show their face. What's the poshest cat's name again?
Cersei.
Cersei, brilliant. I love it.
Cersei from Game of Thrones.
Amazing. Enjoy your morning cuppa, and we thank you as ever for taking part. We love you weekly. Sarah Vine, author and columnist in the Daily Mail. 8:20. Let's cross 2. Are we outside in the bright sunshine? The Shadow Business Secretary from the Tory front bench. Good morning, Andrew Griffiths. How are you, sir?
Good morning, I'm very good. It's not quite as warm as your viewers will think with the lovely blue sky behind us.
I'd like to just ask you a question, Andrew, that's very important. Have you got your mobile phone on you?
I have got my mobile phone, and...
one or two?
When I was in government, I had...
One or two?
I've just got one, but when I was in government, I had two. You have these government phones.
Yeah.
Security around them is enormously tight.
Yeah.
And you know, if they go walkies, you know, you don't just phone in to the police. You know, let them think it's in East London, and that's the end of the matter. Very secure. And
well, this is what I wanted to ask you.
Very fishy, isn't there, going on?
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that. But this is what I wanted to ask you, because I don't understand this story, and I'm like a dog with a bone. So when you were a minister, you had a government phone. Were you told that all WhatsApp messages had to disappear? First question. Second question. Were they not tracked as government phones with sensitive information on them, Andrew?
Here's two straight answers, yes and yes. There's very strict protocols about the use of things like WhatsApp, personal messages. If you have any interactions relating to your job in government, those are all to be kept and retained. It's very common that you get things like freedom of information requests. I did around the debanking scandal when NatWest were trying to debank Nigel Farage and Toby Young. Again, on other matters, things like rescuing Silicon Valley Bank or the LDI. So whenever there's a topic of public interest, it's extremely common that you're supposed to keep all records, quite rightly. That is the government code. And of course, if you lose a government device, all sorts of security swings in to try and make sure that that's not in nefarious hands. Now, sadly, under the Labour mayor, there is too much crime and phone theft in London. But even to this day, I don't think anyone could attest as to whether this was a targeted operation by a foreign power or just another hooligan on a bike.
Well, it's really interesting, actually, and I'm glad we brought this up. Sir Keir Starmer, bless him, head out of the bunker. Bless him, what am I saying that for? This morning has tweeted, "It's a little bit far-fetched to suggest that the theft of my former Chief of Staff's phone is in any way linked to the release of the files on Lord Peter Mandelson." But at the front, at the top of the Daily Mail, great piece by Guy Adams this morning, Andrew. He says, "The curious case of the number 10 chief is WhatsApp messages to Mandelson of the handily timed disappearance of his phone. Bear in mind, and you might know this, you probably do, overnight the Cabinet Office have discovered some of them." Andrew, not all of them, just some of them. To me, it smells horrendous. Are you saying that the Tory party doesn't believe Morgan McSweeney's version of events?
Well, it's the curious incident of the phone in the night, isn't it? And look, I think there's a very simple answer to this. Let's not spend endless months debating it and having the truth absolutely wringed out of this wretched government. Let's have Morgan Sweeney, pressured by his buddy.
Morgan McSwindley, people are calling him. Morgan McSwindley, well done.
well. I didn't, but let's have Morgan McSweeney, pressured by his mentor or mentee, the Prime Minister, hand over all of his devices, all of his logins, all of his cloud accounts. Let's have the intelligence services go through all of those and let's put them all in the public domain. And if there's nothing to hide, what is the problem with that?
Couldn't agree more. Very quickly, my friend, yesterday during question time, something that blew so many people away, there are thousands, millions of people in this country. You realise we're in the middle of a cost of living crisis. You're the shadow business sector. We know what this government's done to business. But to many people who think about things logically, we've got this amazing resource in the North Sea. Kemi yesterday has made it clear that your party would reopen those drilling fields. She asked that direct question. The Prime Minister said it's up to the Secretary of State of Energy, Miliband, to make that decision. The man can't even do that when he knows his own people need help financially, Andrew.
I want to know who ties his shoelaces for him in the morning, to be quite frank. I mean, look, the reality is that when the government decides they need to do something, as with the example of the botched nationalisation of British Steel, you can summon Parliament, you can line up all of your members of Parliament, you can get the House of Lords, you can sit on a Saturday and ram things through. So if he thinks he doesn't have the power and ability, when he is the Prime Minister, when he has a majority in Parliament, then he should just stand aside and make a way for somebody who thinks that they can do that. We are in an energy crisis. The businesses that I'm a voice for are absolutely bleeding out. And it wasn't just energy. I mean, it was tough before, right? Increases in national insurance, business rates going up on the 1st of April. But now they've got higher energy bills. There's no price cap or protection for business energy costs. The Prime Minister needs to act. It's the sort of thing, if you're Prime Minister, the clue is in the name, it's the sort of thing that you are responsible for and you could do today.
Final question for you, very quickly, only got a minute. Junior doctors have announced that they will strike again after the Easter break for 6 days. That'll be the 15th strike in 3 years on the back of a 28% pay rise. What's the Tory party's view of this utterly disgraceful body of people?
Look, doctors should be where we need them, on wards, in treating patients. That's what we need from our junior doctors. There's a lot more that I could go into. We need to train more. We need to keep more of our own doctors here, train less foreign doctors. It's a big topic and a big issue, but your viewers and listeners will quite rightly want their doctors, who are paid by taxpayers' money, to be working on wards.
Top man, Andrew, thank you so much indeed. Remember the code next time. Great to have you on. Shadow Business Secretary Andrew Griffiths, live and exclusive there from College Green. It's 8:26 and I'm late because he won't go into school. If you listen to this show regularly, you will know Ollie Bolly is in the car right now. The main boy, Oliver William Robin Carl, is in the car with Rissy and with Aves. Aves, amazing. She's incredible. What a woman. And my beautiful wife, Victoria. Ollie, have a good day at school. 8:26. Good morning, Boz.
Morning, Jezza, the breakfast team, travelling Boz here. Do you know what? I'm getting sick and tired. I keep hearing this could be his Waterloo. This is the end. This could bring him down. This is his Watergate. The man has got no conscience at all. For 20 months, he's escaped this, that, and he ignores it, blames everyone else but himself. He's like the Teflon Don. Do you remember that, Gotti? This bloke has got no remorse at all. He's a robot. Oh, it wasn't me. Oh, no, let's blame everyone else. Listen, I can't take another 3 years of this. They've got to go, all of them. They all cover each other.
We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MPs, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeny, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from Number 10. Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, has now also resigned. The plot is thickening. The noose is tightening.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Nearly 8:30. We're live across the UK. Talk Breakfast is on. It's the home of common sense. It's where you bring your views on the day's news. And there's only one story in town: the disappearing phone of Morgan McSweeny, the ex-chief whip, chief of staff to Keir Starmer. Great article, page 10 in The Sun, the best newspaper this morning, by the excellent Kate Ferguson. A political edge of The Sun on Sunday. Kate, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm really struggling. I know you'll help me. I'm really struggling. There's so much to this story that leaves me in a position where I think, this is a... We've been talking about it for about 3 hours. 2 phones. The work one got nicked, not the personal one. The work one, according to Andrew Griffiths just there, ministers' phones, important government officials are tracked. That didn't happen with that one. WhatsApp messages apparently all deleted. Didn't happen with Streeting, happened with his. The call that was released by the police, he doesn't seem to know where he is in London. But perhaps the most shocking, your article, what this stolen Number 10 phone tells us about the sorry state of Starmer's Britain. He doesn't even say, Kate Ferguson, I am probably at that moment the most powerful person in Britain, and on my phone will be sensitive information which could put this country in danger. This is a stitch-up, isn't it?
So but this is the big stolen phone saga that's sort of rocking government at the moment. A story I broke at the weekend on Saturday night. The article I've written today sort of talks about. I mean, we went through that police transcript. So very unusually, the police released the call, the transcript of the call that they have with Morgan McSweeny. And my take on this is that I was really left gobsmacked by that transcript because the police seem really uninterested that someone has called up and says that their government phone has been nicked.
But the point is, he doesn't exaggerate. I mean, I had Sarah Vine on, who absolutely agrees with me. She told the story of her son, Michael Gove's, Michael Gove's son, and she said 4 years ago, William's phone was nicked, and she got onto the phone to the police, and she was very honest and said, she just said it on the show, look, he's Michael Gove's son, and there could be messages, and they came round to the house and did it in a heartbeat. The question is, why would McSweeny not say who he was in more detail? That's the dodgiest thing, isn't it?
I think that in retrospect, he should have said more about who he was. I say in the piece that it's very rare in the world that you would advise someone to say, do you know who I am? But this is an instance where you should have said, do you know who I am? It's clear, I think, that the police call handler is just rushing through it and not really listening to what's being told. But given that they do have that sort of tick box culture where they're obviously filling a form and just trying to get through this form filling, Morgan McSweeny should have probably screamed down the phone, I'm Morgan McSweeny, yes, that Morgan McSweeny. I mean, at the time, he was the second most powerful man in the country.
Some would say the most powerful.
He was most powerful aide. He was chief of staff. And the problem is that when thefts like this aren't properly investigated, tracked down, then it does breed all these theories about what actually happened because people don't trust the official narrative. So I think that when you look through that transcript of that call, yes, Morgan should have been clearer about the fact that there would have been confidential stuff on that phone, and it's more than just an everyday theft. But I do also think you can tell from that call that the police are just rushing through it. I mean, look, I've had it. I don't know if you've had it. I think a lot of your listeners would have had it, where you've called the police, you've got burgled, your phone's got nicked, your car's been broken into. With me, I was burgled, but any number of crimes, and they just sort of shrug their shoulders and say, oh, well, here's your crime reference number.
Unless you write some hurty words, unless you write some hurty words and 6 of them come to your house. I think you're right. And in fact, it does tell us a lot about the sorry state of Starmer's Britain. It says an awful lot about the state of the police, and we've had countless debates on this station about where that lack of, I don't know, somebody was telling me the other day you can't even call it a police force anymore because that'll give the wrong impression. They say that the bosses have changed the very being of being in the police. But yeah, I mean, you could tell the bloke was disinterested, and it's a bit like phoning 111, and if people don't like that, I had to do it on Saturday night for my ill daughter last week, rather, and it's just like a box ticking thing, and it doesn't fill you with any confidence. Not at all.
Look, it's not always possible to find the criminal, but I think there's a broader thing here, which is instilling actual confidence in people that your crime is being taken seriously and that they're bothered about it and that they're going to look into it. And I guess the point I'm making in this article is if they close a case into the PM's chief of staff's stolen phone, which had, the Prime Minister's phone number in, all of the Cabinet's phone number, all these confidential messages, emails that God knows what Russia or China would have done with that if they found that. If they're closing that kind of case because, oops, 2 missed calls, no one's answered, then what else are they doing? What else are they just closing? What hope have any of us that our crimes are going to be taken seriously if that's how they deal with something like this? So look, I totally take your point. Like, this is a case where Morgan should have screamed down the phone, no, you don't understand, this is more important, this is exactly who I am, this is the kind of stuff that should be on this phone. But my point is a slightly different one, which is the inertia, the box ticking of a lot of our police forces. And look, it's not about saying they're going to be able to fix every problem. And I do think that sometimes people can put too much pressure on them, assume they can fix every problem. But it's, what is the police force there for? There are things that you do need to investigate. And this is an example of that. And now we're going all over it all these months later. It's an issue of national debate, of political importance, because the basics weren't done at the time.
Can I ask you, in your role as... let me play you something, because... I mean, starting with the Mail, I mean, Guy Adams says the handily timed disappearance. A lot of criticism this morning, and it's led the Prime Minister, who's in Helsinki, to say this morning. Let me play this for people.
Well, the phone was stolen. It was reported to the police. There's a transcript of the call in which Morgan McSweeny gives his name, his date of birth, the details of the phone, and the police confirm that it was reported. Unfortunately, there are thefts like this. It was stolen, it was reported at the time, and the police have acknowledged and confirmed that that is what happened. And the idea that somehow everybody could have seen that sometime in the future there would be a request for the phone is, to my mind, a little bit far-fetched.
Kate, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but I know what my listeners and viewers think. Do you believe that this government is pulling the wool over our eyes, or do you buy this story?
Look, I think that phone was stolen. I don't think that it was a kind of big conspiracy or cover-up, because you do have the contemporaneous call and it is before the humble address. But the point being that obviously when things like this aren't properly investigated and disclosed, people do jump to conclusions or do go elsewhere for their theories. But look, you do have the contemporaneous call. So I would not have written the story on Saturday saying it had been stolen and reported if I wasn't confident it had been stolen and reported.
Pretty convenient timing there. You'd understand what Guy Adams is saying, and you understand the people. I guess you'd get this more than anybody, the political editor of the Sun on Sunday. These people have not lied, but U-turned and fabricated so much that there's a degree of cynicism, isn't there? Genuine cynicism.
Of course, there's a high degree of cynicism with our politics at the moment, and so that is like naturally where people are going to go. I think here you do have that contemporaneous call. Actually, the transcript's been released for people, but what that transcript does show is that this wasn't properly investigated and taken seriously at the time. So in my mind, it shows another scandal.
Yeah.
The scandal of police forces not investigating.
Couldn't agree anymore. Thank you. Great piece today by Kate Ferguson. What this stolen number 10 phone tells us about the sorry state of Starmer's Britain. Her angle, you should read it, is that what does this say about the police? It was a tick boxing situation. Kate, thank you so much indeed for joining us on Talk Breakfast 0344 499 1000, almost 20 minutes to 9. Morning, Liam.
Morning, Jezza. Liam from Kent. I don't know if you're interested, but I bought a new phone the other day out of a second-hand shop. I hadn't wiped it properly. God, whoever this Mandy fella is on here, God, there's some racy photos, mate. If anyone's interested, we could set up a GoFundMe where I'll sell the text messages. Cheers, Jezza. Have a great show.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, man on your side. This is Talk.
It's really weird doing this show. Welcome back, because you do want to bring all the news of the day, but there's only one thing that you lot are going for: the curious, mysterious case of the missing mobile phone of Morgan McSweeny. Kate Ferguson there from The Sun on Sunday saying she believes that it was stolen. She wrote the story. She broke the story on Saturday night. She says it says more, this story, about, you know, the situation with the police, who at best in that call sounded disinterested and just saw it as a box-ticking exercise. I wouldn't disagree with that, but I'd also say to her categorically that there seemed to be holes in this story. You know, no tracker on Andrew Griffiths, who was he was in government, is now the shadow business secretary, just told us live from Westminster that when you have a government phone, it has tracking on because it's so sensitive. Apparently, on this one that was nicked, the voice message, the WhatsApp messages were switched off. That's quite convenient as well, bearing in mind you're about to be summoned to explain your relationship with Mandelson. It just smells bad, doesn't it? Morning, Marky.
Morning, gentlemen. The real reason why Matt Swindle didn't tell the police who he was, because he didn't want the phone finding. Simple as that. Him and Starmer didn't want the phone to be found because they both would have went 2 weeks ago. Have a good show, gentlemen.
You see, what can I say? 0344 499 1000. Let's head to Edinburgh, lovely part of the world. Davey, you're on Talk Breakfast. Good morning.
Morning, gentlemen. I think you just covered the point. This day and age, there's tracking. The people at the head of governments, they must have some form of tracking in case of kidnapping, terrorist things. They must have some form of tracking on it, where even if it's switched off, buried, it must be able to be tracked.
Are you telling me that you don't believe the government's version of events?
Funnily enough, yes.
It's just so obvious to anybody with a brain cell that this is just like, oh my God. And I think the problem is, right, Davey, and tell me if I'm wrong here, because this is not the first in a line of screeching U-turns or things that have been found out, and we're not saying in any way that every government is perfect. They're not. It's not possible to be, but when you make such a case over a number of years to, quite rightly, there you are, I've said it, criticise the Tories, and that was the right thing to do. When you set your stall out to be, you know, modifying government, it's about country, not party, it's about honesty, it's not about jobs for the boys. The last 18 months have shown Starmer and Labour to be no better, if not in some case, markedly worse, hasn't it?
Well, it has, and as I say, it's just the whole trust in governments is completely blown now, I think. We've had that up here with WhatsApp messages, from Nicola Sturgeon. So it covers the board right across the board, political parties. They're just not trustworthy.
Completely agree. Davey in Edinburgh, thank you very much indeed. 8:45. Morning, Jez. This is a job for Labour's new detective agency, McSweeny Todd. The Flying Squad. McSweeny Todd. Mike in Durham, that's the text of the morning. Morning, Bobby. Jez, far-fetched, is it, to say Farage is in Putin's pocket? Is it far-fetched to say Kemi wants war? Is it far-fetched to say Reform wants to privatise the NHS? Is it far-fetched to say Mandelson lied? They all lie. Lie, 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 says Robert in Chiswick. OK. Russell Harper, good morning. He says, do you think Starmer in his capacity as a lawyer would hear this phone call as a defence and think, yeah, that seems legit? What a load of bullshit. Easy? Hi, Jez. Great show. Darren in Barnsley. Why did I do that? Why doesn't someone set up a petition that requires the Prime Minister to actually answer the questions he's asked at Prime Minister's questions? Surely it would get the required number to require discussion in Parliament. Yeah, but if we're having a discussion in Parliament about why he doesn't answer questions, and somebody asked him in Parliament, Darren in Barnsley, with the greatest respect, Prime Minister, we've got a petition, why don't you answer questions in Parliament? No comment. It's not going to work, is it? I mean, it's just absolutely... What's happened to me? Kate in North Yorkshire, good morning. I'm still new to politics, and Prime Minister's question time absolutely infuriates me. It seems tit for tat. Constantly bullying and belittling other MPs and other parties. The Speaker of the House, other than settling the noise from MPs and kicking people out for disruption, seems like a complete waste of taxpayers' money. Surely the Speaker should have the power to compel a clear answer to questions, even if it's just a yes or no. Chris says... All right, Jez. Ready for this, you two? Ready? You know this phone that was stolen with the sensitive information? Can you just confirm to me, whoever's got it, would they be able to make a fortune selling it? Yes. What did I do that for? Utterly balmy. What's Zarina? Jeremy, why are the police keen to publish the transcript of the telephone call between McSweeny and the police officer? Is this a conspiratorial cover-up to appear to be plausible in order to stop the British public from asking questions? It's bonkers. I don't believe any of it. You lot won't let this go. Baz in West Brom. Morning. Tony Blair with Teflon Tony. Now we have non-stick Starmer. Non-stick Starmer. Final one. Gordon in Slough. Morgan McSweeney's phone is now up there with missing Lord Lucan. People must now establish specifically when and where this alleged robbery took place. Has anyone heard of CCTV? Interesting. It's not going away. See, that's what I love about Alarm Clock Brits. They're like dogs with bones. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. We will be beginning next week the run-up to the May local elections, and you will know from what I said during the election that we have very strict rules about what one can broadcast and what one can't broadcast. No candidates, people talking generally. That's a thing that has to be done in all responsible radio and television. But ahead of that, I just wanted to get a view of a certain part of the country. In fact, probably the overview with, well, he's just basically the main man, isn't he? The main polling expert in the whole of the world. Also politics professor at the University of Strathclyde. Sir John Curtis, good morning. Welcome to Talk Breakfast. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Jeremy. How's yourself?
I'm all right. It was a nice build-up from me, Sir John, wasn't it, eh?
Yeah, well, I've learnt not to take too much notice to this flattery, Jeremy, but anyway.
Why not? What are you talking about? You haven't got your phone on you, have you?
It's on airport mode, so we don't get interrupted.
I just don't want it nicked, Sir John. I don't.
No, nor do I.
I don't want it. Oh, fair enough. Right, well, we'll go. That's another story. We were going to talk about Wales, which we'll start with, and then I'd love an overview. You've made no secret of the fact that you think Labour is on course for a humiliating electoral defeat in Wales, a new poll says. Tell us specifically about that, Sir John, and then what that perhaps means and could transpire in the rest of the United Kingdom.
OK, fine. So let's start with Wales. There's been the occasional poll in Wales during the course of the last year or so. The consistent message of those polls has been that Labour appeared to be running third, and that the battle is essentially between pride and reform as to who's going to come first. The thing that's interesting about the latest poll, however, is that it's the first to be done in Wales using what we've learnt to use, calling the trade MRP polls, so essentially interviewing a much bigger number of people and then using the polling to work out what the outcome would be in individual constituencies. Now, actually, Wales is going to have a new electoral system. It's not first past the post. It's a party list system. Basically, 6 MSPs get elected everywhere. Crucial thing you need to know about the system, where you need somewhere between 12 and 14% of the vote in a constituency to at least pick up a seat. And according to this poll, Labour across Wales as a whole are running at about 13%, incredibly low for a part of the world where they haven't lost an election since 1931. That, has to be said, is consistent with previous YouGov polls, although other pollsters suggest it's closer to 20%. But if indeed it is around 13%, then actually there are parts of Wales where Labour are not going to get an MS elected. And that, by the way, could include Llywelyn Morgan, the current First Minister of Wales. So further evidence that in this, what was one of those places, Labour just didn't lose, but Labour is at risk of not just losing, but losing very badly. So also, by the way, are the Conservatives. According to this poll, the Conservatives are just at 7% in Wales and would have just one MS. And that is part of the broader picture. So here is one part of the UK where actually in the last devolved election in 2021, Labour were first, Conservative were second. Now, we've got Applied first, Reform second, and both Labour and the Conservatives a long way behind. Look at the British-wide polls. They have between them, Conservative and Labour getting less than 40% of the vote, Labour at around 20, the Conservatives around 18. So you can see again why these elections on May the 7th more broadly. There's a devolved election in Scotland. There's a lot of local elections in England, including all the London Borough Council seats in London. It looks difficult for both of these parties, but of course in particular for Labour, because the places in England where elections are taking place are predominantly Labour Britain, including not least London, and that therefore Labour will potentially be on the line for losing an awful lot of seats and perhaps quite a lot of councils.
So much I want to ask you. I personally think that the Tories are starting to speak more coherently, but I believe, and you'd probably back me up on this, that the electorate will not forgive and forget that quickly. I think they are still suffering from the hangover of 14 years of, well, in the end, things that they said they were going to do and didn't. I don't think anybody could have possibly, Sir John, have imagined how quickly this government could have imploded and how unpopular he and this government would be. I'm interested nationally from... I've noticed that Reform, despite leading, have dropped a little bit in the polls over the last few months. I'd like to talk about that, but also the Green Challenge. Is that a flash in the pan, or is that something you're seeing that's sustaining itself across the UK?
OK, you're quite right to point us in the direction of Reform and the Greens, because insofar as what we once called the mould of British politics, remember that phrase about breaking the mould of British politics? Well, it's now looking much more fragile than it ever has done. But that challenge is not coming primarily from the Democrats. They're just flatlining at around 12% in the opinion polls. It is coming from both Reform and the Greens. That said, whereas Reform back in September of last year reached a peak of 32%, but thereafter have been running around 29-30%. It is noticeable in polls conducted this month, since the back end of February, that Reform has been averaging 27 rather than 29. And then, in fact, no pollster now puts them as high as 30%. Quite why this is happening is difficult to tell. Obviously, one possibility is that maybe some people are taking account of the association with Nigel Farage, with Donald Trump, and that Donald Trump's military action in Iran is not particularly popular here. That said, it isn't clear that, for example, that Nigel Farage's personal ratings have got any worse during the course of the last 3 weeks. So I think the jury has to be out on that. But certainly it is possible that the gains for Reform in May now not be quite so big as we were anticipating. To the Greens are now running on average at 15% in the polls. They were at 9% when Zach Polanski became leader. There has been a gradual increase. They certainly also got a boost in the wake of the Gorton and Denton by-election, although that may now be beginning to fade. I think the action for Greens, so far as May the 7th concerned, is primarily in London, because London is, Reform voters are very heavily those people who voted for Brexit. London, of course, did not vote to leave the European Union. But the Greens already have quite a strong local government base in part of London. They've always been doing quite well in local elections. And the question is whether or not their rise, and together with the fact that, it's Labour who are primarily defending in the capital, whether they'll be able to do well enough, not just to take votes off Labour, but actually to take seats. Now, I don't think it's very clear how that's going to pan out. It's quite a substantial challenge to the Greens to take a lot of seats off Labour. But frankly, if they were to succeed, that would be really bad news for Labour, because these days, London is meant to be Labour's strongest part of the UK.
That's nationally. We've talked about Wales. It almost gives the impression that everybody... I mean, listen, I've my own personal views, and you might have made a really good point about the Greens. I think they're hoovering up certain parts of the Labour vote that's disinterested, and whether that carries it through, whether the drop in Reform continues or it builds back up, whether the Tories are starting to make sense, God only knows. What about Scotland, quickly, Sir John?
In Scotland, it looks as though the SNP will remain the dominant party in the Holyrood Parliament, not because they've recovered to any significant degree from the 30% to which they fell in the 2024 Westminster election and lost an awful lot of MPs to Labour. It's because the Labour Party in Scotland has fallen away heavily, as they have done in the rest of the UK. Reform in Scotland doing Labour particularly damage, and that has meant that although the SNP are at little more than a third of the vote, they have something like a 17-point lead over their nearest competitors, and that is inevitably bound to translate in the constituency half of what is a two-part contest, is going to translate into an awful lot of SNP MSPs.
Just very quickly to finish, it's always great to have you on. Have you ever seen, I hate using the word, the diversity of a vote in all of your experience? We've only got a minute left. I mean, there's lots of different angles here, isn't there?
Yes, we've never seen our politics as fragmented as this before. We've never seen Conservative and Labour as weak as they are at present. We are frankly in uncharted territory, and none of us really knows how this is going to pan out during the course of the rest of this Parliament.
Great to have you on. Thank you so much indeed. The voice of the polls, Sir John Curtis, their polling expert, Professor of Politics at the University of Strathclyde. Thank you so much indeed. It's almost 9 o'clock. We've got a great final hour. Trust me, loads coming up. We're going to get Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg on. We're going to get Dan Hodges from the Mail, who does not in any way believe that phone was stolen. He thinks it's a cover-up. He believes it's Starmer's Watergate, and it will eventually bring this government down. 0344 499 1000. The only number you need, call or voicemail, or even voice note. You can text 87222. Start your message with the word talk. We'll head to the news at 9 by saying good morning to Shirley.
Good morning, Jeremy. It's Shirley in the Cotswolds. What am I missing, Jeremy? So McSweeny lost his phone. Did Mandelson lose his as well? The messages were between the two of them. So if McSweeney's phone's gone, surely they can still get the messages from Mandelson's phone. I'm not getting it. Keir Starmer is going nowhere. He will take the flak. He will bat away every one of these scandals, and we'll be stuck with him. He's the most ruthless PM there's ever been, and he doesn't care what anyone thinks about him. You have a good day, Jeremy. Bye.
Good morning to you. This is Tour the Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Just breaking news in the last couple of moments. Extraordinary news. Not just that the police have arrived at the Sandringham estate where Prince Andrew, as was now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is currently living since being thrown out of the Windsor estate. The police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation. And certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files as released in the last few weeks. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is.
We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MPs, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeny, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from Number 10. And Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim
Across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk. across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. An hour to go on breakfast on Thursday. Had a Julia Hartley-Burr, of course, from 10, Ian Collins from 1, and Kev O'Sullivan from 4 p.m. this afternoon. 0344 499 1000. Ahead of our next guest, this story, the only story in town, is about the Morgan McSweeny stolen phone. I don't want to keep going over the same thing, but he was the chief of staff to the then chief of staff to the Prime Minister. He was the man who said, I think Peter Mandelson would be a very good UK ambassador to America, and Starmer went, OK. He said, can I vet him? And Starmer went, OK. And he said, can I offer him the job? And Starmer said, OK. And then when it all went wrong, because, of course, we all found out that he was inextricably linked to Peter Mandelson and Jeffrey Epstein, the two of them, Mandelson had to resign. We gave him 75 grand. There's a picture of Starmer with his head in his hands. And the light shone on McSweeny and Starmer for making that decision. And then, my friends, then, when it was announced there was going to be an investigation, Morgan McSweeny lost his phone. Now, I'm not doubting, because the police, in fact, overnight released the call that was made and the call that was, carried through. But there are so many holes in this story. He said, and I quote, I was carrying two phones. It was the work one that was nicked. Fair enough. The tracker wasn't on, really. OK, because Andrew Griffiths, who was a minister, and indeed Sarah Vine, whose son's phone was nicked, because she was on the show earlier, both said that government phones do have trackers on them. Then the WhatsApp messages were turned off. And today, this is the best bit, having said that they can't find any of them, the Cabinet Office have released just a few messages. It stinks a little bit, so much so that the front of the Mail, the amazing Guy Adams, the curious case of number 10 chief is WhatsApps to Mandelson and the handily timed disappearance of the mobile phone. Dan Hodges will be here very soon. Morning, Brian.
Morning, Jeremy. Brian from Southend. Just listening to Starmer this morning about saying, oh, it is recorded by the police. Well, he should know that. Recording or just reporting to police doesn't mean it was stolen. Perhaps he should ask his transport or ex-transport minister that. Remember her? Who reported a lot of stolen phones, but they weren't in fact stolen?
Is that it? Maybe it's in Louise Hayes' desk in the House of Commons. Good morning to Paul in Kent, who says, Jez, I have two questions. When was the theft of the phone reported to the police? And two, when was the theft of the phone reported to government security teams, as this is a loss of potentially sensitive material? You won't let go, you lot. Hello to Andy Linton. The phone thing. The story has more holes than a Swiss cheese, Jez. His phone will be backed up and tracked. Also, all the messages would be on Mandelson's blower. Hasn't that been analysed? Carl in Manchester. This phone theft happened in our capital city with CCTV cameras everywhere. Surely there are images of the actual theft and the face of the thief. You try saying that. Bring on a general election. I'll tell you who'll be able to give me some juice on this live. Is he in the garden or is he indoors? Outside, braving the elements. Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Can I ask you a very direct question, Jacob? When you were the leader of the House of Commons, you had a mobile phone, a government mobile phone. Were those devices tracked? Is Morgan McSweeny telling the truth, or do you smell a rat, as so many of us do?
I never had a government telephone. I didn't want to carry around two. I always just used my own personal telephone all my time as a minister. So I can't answer your question on government telephones. Do I believe Morgan McSweeny? I think this story is unbelievably fishy. You've listened to or you've read the transcript from the Metropolitan Police. And he seems so laid back about just having a telephone snatched out of his hand. He gives the wrong street. When the operator at the other end assumes it's in the wrong part of London, he makes no effort to correct this. And then Downing Street does nothing to try and locate the telephone the next day. This is very odd for a senior government official losing an important bit of equipment. It doesn't really ring true, does it?
No, and that's the point, isn't it? Because the panic surely would have set in if you was Chief of Staff, and at that point the second most, well, some people would say the most powerful person in England. The sensitive material that could have come from that. This morning, Sir Keir Starmer, Jacob, has said that it's a little bit far-fetched to even suggest that the theft of this former Chief of Staff's phone was in any way linked to the release of the files of Mandelson. But of course my listeners and viewers are all saying the same thing. The timing's fishy, as you quite rightly say. This was done, it carried out a matter of days after the inquiry was announced, and even more so, stupid unanswered questions like, if I'd sent you a text message or a WhatsApp message and I'd lost my phone, you'd still have them on your phone. So if the police have got Mandelson's phone, then my first question is, surely they can get them. But then the Cabinet Officer, Jacob, completely confusing everybody this morning by, and I quote, we've retrieved some of them. What do you mean some of them? The ones that you conveniently want us to see. That's the problem as well.
Well, I think that's absolutely right, and there's a problem with the lack of trust. The convenience of the timing is absolutely extraordinary, and bear in mind, Keir Starmer was somebody who was quite well informed about humble addresses, therefore would have known this was a possibility. Morgan McSweeny had been a long-standing advisor of him. He would have thought through that there was a risk that this telephone could have been called for. Labour put down motions asking for the mobile telephone conversations of special advisors when the Conservatives were in office. They're not so stupid as to think that the Conservatives wouldn't try the same with them, which is exactly what happened in the end. So it all fits remarkably conveniently for the government to cover something up. And this is a terrible mistake for them, because so often in scandals, it's not the scandal that causes the real trouble, it's the cover-up and the perception of cover-up.
Why don't politicians in that case, and I've had this said to me on many occasions, why when they get it wrong, which is human nature, do they not front it up, Jacob, and come out? Why do they try and cover stuff up to the point that it then becomes an even bigger mess for them to deal with?
I think it's the culture of spin and the effort to try and put the best foot forward in the public arena, and that spin soon evolves into lying, and that's been a great problem for politics since Mandelson and of course his close collaborator Alistair Campbell started the great spin machine for Tony Blair all those years ago.
I wanted to ask you something quite specifically parliamentary, which is that you were the leader of the House of Commons for a couple of years. There's been a lot of talk about Prime Minister's question time, and really, I think justifiably so. Yesterday, we saw another example. We saw the Reform MPs asked a question via Farage. It was batted away, not even acknowledged by Starmer, and they walked out en masse. And many people contacted me and saying, what the hell is the point? But more so, Sir Jacob, that actually isn't the onus on the Speaker to bring the Prime Minister to bear and say, there's no point to this unless you actually answer the questions put to you?
No, absolutely not. That is not the Speaker's role. There's been some very unfair criticism of the Speaker. It is not the Speaker's job to decide whether the answer is a good answer or a bad answer. That is a job for members of the House, for MPs, and for the public to think about. The Speaker is responsible for keeping order and making sure that the House is orderly, but the rules of the House are absolutely clear that the answer given by a minister is the answer that the government chooses to give, and the Speaker has no power to say, I don't like that answer. And this is important constitutionally, because as soon as the Speaker starts saying, I don't think that answer's good enough, he would become a political figure. He'd become partisan. And it's so important that the Speaker remains above politics. So,
I understand
the Speaker
that.
is doing his job properly.
I understand that, but let me put this to you then. What is the point of a procedure that used to be 2 days and is now 1 day, when the incumbent Prime Minister steadfastly refuses to answer any questions from anybody?
It's an invaluable form of democracy because it is exposing the Prime Minister as being utterly inadequate and incapable of doing his job and unable to answer simple questions. The Prime Minister's questions is about holding the Prime Minister to account. He's being held to account and found wanting, because if you stood up to him and said, is today Wednesday, he'd say, well, there's a process for deciding that, as if he has to be told by your programme every morning what day of the week it is.
No, I'm with you. I mean, you get the impression that this guy literally only makes a decision when an advisor who's probably ill-advised to advise him, or some pressure, or not pressure group, some of those, what are they called? People sit in focus groups have told him. By the way, Jacob, I don't want to ever pick you up on anything, but it's Thursday.
No, Prime Minister's Questions is on Wednesday.
I know,
I'm
I
so
just
sorry
wasn't
not
sure.
to be clear.
No, I just wanted to make sure whether you needed me to... I'm joking, my friend. I'm joking. Just to finish...
I'm reassured.
Just to finish very quickly, I'd love your take on this. In Prime Minister's Question Time yesterday, one of the big debates at the moment in this country is about net zero, and it's about drilling in the North Sea. It's about that asset, that liquid gold, for want of a better phrase. You know, we're heavily in debt. We can't afford our debts and our interest payments, and yet we've got this thing that this current government won't touch. He said yesterday, the Prime Minister of this country, it's up to the Energy Secretary, Ed Miliband. Does that not absolutely prove, Sir Jacob, that actually this man is nothing more? He's not a Prime Minister. He's not controlling anything. He doesn't make any decisions. Because if I had a 180-seat majority and I knew my people were having the troubles they are with bills, I would do a massive U-turn, and it would be the most popular U-turn that he's ever done.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, in a narrow point, the Prime Minister is right that this is effectively a planning decision, and if it appeared to be predetermined, it could go back to the courts and would be overruled. But the question is not so much this individual decision as government policy. Now, if government policy were clearly that we should use all the resources that we've got, then that would inform this individual decision. So there is a risk that if he'd said yesterday, we must go ahead, and Miliband had then made that decision, the decision could have been overturned in the courts. But the general point, yes, of course we should be using our resources. And can I say, because you can't say this, that these hellhounds at Ofcom should not be looking at talk to see whether or not you've questioned whether climate change is leading to good policy making. You should absolutely discuss that. They are attacking freedom of speech, and they're being led by the nose by an infamous fox killer, and it's pretty outrageous.
Your words, not mine, but thank you for that. Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg...
No, I know you can't say this.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg in the coat, enjoying the morning. We thank you very much indeed. 9:15, we're live across the United Kingdom. Yesterday, we had the most extraordinary interview with the legend that is Dan Hodges about this story that Guy Adams in the Mail continues to talk about today. The curious case of Number 10's chief, his WhatsApps to Mandelson, the handily timed disappearance of the mobile phone. It was Mrs. White in the kitchen. Yes, it was. He's back because this man knows this inside out and he smells blood. He's not ready. Oh, you said he was. I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's say good morning to Dave. Morning, Dave.
Morning, Jazza. This is Dave in Stoke. Apparently, Morgan McSweeney's lost his phone. That's okay. You can get all the messages off Mandelson's phone. What he's really doing is hiding the message he sent to Stormy. So we need to get his phone and examine that. Cheers.
This is the best text all morning. Cheers. I need a bit of help. I've just bought a second-hand phone off eBay. I think the original owner was a decorator, because I keep being pinged with messages saying, "This is Mandy, I want a whitewash." Talk breakfast.
The world is on fire. Russia, Iran, China, conflicts brewing in all of their different regions. They're not waiting. But here in Britain, our armed forces are underfunded, they're undermanned, and they're underprepared. And nobody in government wants to talk about it. Well, we do. I'm Philip Ingram, and I spent my career in the world of intelligence, military planning, strategic planning, and unfortunately, conflict. This is Talk War, and this is where we analyse the conflicts shaping our world.
On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Slight difficulties technically getting hold of Dan Hodges on his mobile phone. No, we'll get to him. Dan's just done amazing. Margaret in Birmingham. I seek it here, I seek it there, I seek my damn phone everywhere. Is it? I do not know what street I'm in. Perhaps my phone is in the bin. We will never know, but this story will grow and grow. Brilliant, Margaret, Michael, if McSweeney's phone is missing, the police can demand Starmer's phone to find out about the conversations that he had with Starmer about Mandelson's appointment. If he refuses, the police can issue a warrant. Jez says, Mike in Bournemouth, let's call it what it is, Starmergate. A very good morning to our roving reporter and a woman who fills us full of joy, Samara Gill.
You're great at faking it, Jeremy. I just really do think that I'm the opposite of that sometimes. I don't know how you wake up so early.
Because I have no life, I have no friends, everybody hates me and I might as well stay up all night. Now, I'm going to make a decision here. You're going to have to sit here through this because I was going to do your story, but Dan has now joined. You know all about this phone. Have you got your phone?
I have, but it has actually been snatched, and I can tell you what, I even told them I'm a journalist. I've even got, you know, some Yvette Cooper's number on here, etc. I should be calling her, asking her what's going on, but
why would she have her number?
Exactly. I've got word streeting, so I told them, yeah, it's a you know, this is a sensitive phone, and they fully tracked it down, and they had CCTV footage of it being taken.
Andrew Griffiths was on this morning, who used to be a minister, and he said, and I quote, the tracking was on our phones. Sarah Vine was on this show at 8 o'clock saying that her son and Michael Gove's son, William, 4 years ago, had his phone nicked, and she phoned the police and said, I'm not being Billy Big Bits here, but I'm telling you that this is Michael Gove's son, and they came round to the house and they found it. This is as fishy gets. We're going to speak to Dan. What are you going to talk to me about? This is brilliant, by the way. Tell us about your little thing very quickly.
Just the woman who exposed that horrible anti-Semitic exhibition in Margate. So she's going to come on and talk to us about that experience and how she stumbled upon it on a quiet Sunday.
Zoe Strimple.
Exactly, Dr. Zoe Strimple.
Oh, doctor, columnist and commentator. She stumbled upon this appalling example of where there were images of Jewish people eating babies, and this has been allowed to just carry on, which is outrageous. But you can join in. He's like the Miss Marple of this continuing saga. Welcome back, day 2. Dan Hodges from the Mail. How are you, my friend?
I'm very good.
Look at the smile on your face. This, from 6 o'clock, no bugger wants to talk about anything other than this. Guy Adams, front of your newspaper today. The curious case of the chief whip, the WhatsApps to Mandelson and the handily timed disappearance. The thing is, Dan, people tune in the whole time. You know this story inside out, but I just want to say to people, so... it's a bit of a skit, but it's not meant to be a skit. You know, Morgan McSweeny, probably the most powerful man in Britain at that time, decides that he wants his good mate Mandelson to be the UK ambassador to America. So he goes to Starmer and says, is that all right? And he goes, yes. So he says to Starmer, I'll do the vetting. And Starmer says, OK. And then he says to Starmer, give him the job. And Starmer goes, OK. When the what's it hits the fan, because it turns out that Mandelson, as dodgy as ever, is tied so closely to Jeffrey Epstein, all hell breaks loose. He has to be sacked. He gets 75 grand of our money, and the spotlight turns on Starmer. On Saturday, it was reported that the phone had been stolen. You pointed out the timeline yesterday, just a few days after the inquiry. Then more comes out. He was carrying 2 phones. Luckily, it was the work one that was nicked. He managed to keep the one that does have the tracking on, and the one that didn't has been nicked. WhatsApp messages aren't backed up. It's not tracked. It's a complete nightmare. He doesn't know where he is in London. He doesn't sound panic-struck that the information could be really dubious for our national security. The policeman sounds like he'd rather be working from home. He was that disinterested. But for me, in all of this, it's this morning. The Cabinet Office, and I quote Dan, going, we found... some of them. This you labelled yesterday as Starmer's Watergate. This stinks to high heaven, doesn't it, pal? And nobody wants to talk about anything else on this show this morning.
No, it does. And the thing about this is, obviously, every time a minister or anybody goes onto TV, on TV to try and explain the mystery of the missing mobile, it kicks the story on. And in fact, I mean, you've touched on a good point that Downing Street is claiming some messages have been found. I mean, that's not actually a particularly new story. We know they're in possession of some messages, in particular, I think, emails. But obviously, the issue is not what messages they do have and they are going to provide. It's the ones that they're holding back or the ones that have mysteriously disappeared. But once again, you know, and I said this last time I was on the programme, I was on again last week. This morning, we've now, for the first time, got Keir Starmer personally, commenting on this issue. And once again, and I'm sorry to say it, Keir Starmer is lying through his teeth to the British people. And the reason he did that is, if you look at the clip that I think it was Beth Rigby from Sky asked him this morning about the mobile, he said, I'm going to paraphrase now because I need to go back and check exactly the wording he goes, but to paraphrase, he said it was far-fetched to think this was all part of the conspiracy. And this is the crucial thing where Starmer is deliberately attempting to mislead the country. He said, it's so far-fetched because at the time the mobile was stolen, there was no way that Morgan McSweeny or anyone else could have known that his messages would become relevant and would become the subject of this investigation. Now, literally before I came on, and the reason I was slightly late is because I was speaking to not a current serving, but a former serving government official. And they specifically told me that and this has been reported before, but it's the first time I've personally had it confirmed. Just to get to the sequencing, Peter Mandelson resigned on September the 11th. The House of Commons then went into recess. During the period of that recess, Downing Street officials and other government officials were terrified that when the House returned, the Tories would demand access to the McSweeny messages. So over the period of the recess, Mandelson resigned on the 11th, the House returned on October the 13th. Over that period, Downing Street specifically started to put together a strategy for what they would do if the Tories and the House of Commons demanded McSweeney's messages. And this is the key thing. They specifically, the source told me, they specifically said, as part of the meetings, what do we do if they ask for Morgan's messages? Right? That was in the period in the run-up to October the 13th when the House returned. On October the 20th, Morgan McSweeney's phone gets stolen. But here's the key thing. Starmer knows this. Keir Starmer knows this. Keir Starmer knows that his officials spent recess putting together a strategy for what would happen explicitly if Morgan McSweeney's messages were asked for by Parliament. Yet we've had him this morning saying to the country, no one could possibly have known anybody would want Morgan McSweeney's messages. But his team were literally putting together a strategy for what they would do in that circumstance. What can you do? Generally, what are we all supposed to do about this guy?
I agree. Can I ask you something that he actually said? It's a little far-fetched to suggest the theft of his former chief of staff's phone was in any way linked to the release. You know, the thing about it is, and you know,
but the important thing is why he then says that. He then goes on to say, and again I'm paraphrasing, no one could possibly have known at that point.
I'll tell you what, I've got the clip. Dan, I've got the clip. Let's play the clip. This is with Beth Rigby this morning in Helsinki. We've just found it. Let's play this so people can see what Starmer says.
Well, the phone was stolen. It was reported to the police. There's a transcript of the call in which Morgan McSweeny gives his name, his date of birth, the details of the phone, and the police confirm that it was reported. Unfortunately, there are thefts like this. It was stolen, it was reported at the time, and the police have acknowledged and confirmed that that is what happened. And the idea that somehow everybody could have seen that sometime in the future there would be a request for the phone is, to my mind, a little bit far-fetched.
That's the point you meant, wasn't it, Dan?
That is the point in which he's lying, and he knows he's lying to he not only was it people didn't need to sort of see it sometime in the future. They literally, in the period immediately before the theft of the mobile, Keir Starmer's advisors were literally holding strategy meetings in which, within those meetings, these explicit words were used. What do we do if they try and get Morgan's messages?
What do you, Guy Adams, you journalists who have done this a long time, one of the biggest frustrations for many people phoning this show this morning is, what more has to happen? What more lies are we supposed to swallow? You've said it, you believe he's lying. I think it's incredibly fishy. Jacob Rees-Mogg, Sarah Vine was on saying when her son's phone was nicked, she phoned the police and was very honest and said, listen, it's Michael Gove's son. There could be sensitive messages, and they came round and did it. Andrew Griffiths was on from the Tory party saying when I was a minister, my phone was tracked. The evidence stacks up and up and up. What more has to happen in this country, I know what people think, for this man to accept the inevitable, that nobody trusts him, nobody respects him, and nobody wants him as our Prime Minister anymore?
Well, I mean, I think the key thing on this is it is important now that Keir Starmer is pinned down. I think specifically, you know, Keir Starmer is now going to need to explain, as I said, what is frankly a lie and a deception from this morning. The issue is that he knows full well, as I said, that people within Downing Street were concerned about what would happen with Morgan McSweeney's messages. The key thing, though, the other key thing that has to happen is we are currently in this ridiculous situation where Parliament has passed a motion which says all the relevant messages must be released. We're now getting into a situation where phones are being lost, messages are being lost, messages are being erased. We're all sitting here trying to work out, you know, Downing Street are sort of briefing as if they should get a pat on the back. Oh, we've still got some of the messages.
Which ones?
We have still got some of the messages.
Yeah.
Key thing is just publish what you've got. Just publish it now. Forget this ludicrous red herring about, oh, it could interfere with and prejudice the police investigation. No, it couldn't. Because this is the other thing. Remember, according to Downing Street and according to Keir Starmer, there is nothing in these messages that could reasonably have led to a reasonable expectation.
Well, then publish them. Then
Keir Starmer could see that when Keir Starmer saw them, he could have said to Peter Mandelson, "Actually, you know, there's these issues here. This is why I shouldn't appoint him Prime Minister." Yeah. They're saying, Downing Street is saying, there was nothing in there that should have raised any concerns. The police are saying, oh, this is actually what's in these messages is so important it could derail our investigation. It can't derail the investigation.
Dan, two questions, and I'm really grateful that you came on again. They're direct questions. Do you personally believe that McSweeney's phone was stolen, yes or no?
I can't answer yes or no, because there are two aspects to this. Just to say, there are two parts of this which are just too incredible. Firstly, even now it seems to me incredible that he would engineer a theft. But it's equally incredible, as I say, that his phone just coincidentally happened to be lost or stolen literally a couple of weeks after, as I said, they were raising concerns about what would happen if the messages were found. The whole thing is just implausible. But the one thing I do know for a fact now, and as I've just said, I'm sorry to repeat myself, I do know that, you know, we know for a fact, I've seen it this morning, Keir Starmer is personally lying about this. Now, he's lying for a reason.
Final question. Could the police not now look at CCTV footage of Belgrave Road, which apparently isn't in London where he said it is, that would reveal whether this theft actually happened or was fabricated? Because if it's fabricated and it doesn't bring this government down, that is fundamentally and morally wrong. Could the police not do more?
Well, the question is any of the has any of the CCTV been retained from an incident that happened, 5 months ago?
It's unbelievable.
That's the issue.
Mate, the work that you and Guy and the Mail are doing, fantastic. You're not letting go of this, are you, kiddo?
No, I mean, it's, it's a very, very serious issue, and we need answers. And the government is deliberately trying not to provide those answers. And
one final thing, because the last thing you said yesterday was spot on. Did Kemi Badenoch miss a trick yesterday by not?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's an important part of it. I mean, it's as I was saying to you, Kemi Badenoch is the only person that can persistently interrogate Keir Starmer over this. And I know there's a lot going on, and I know obviously the cost of living is of vital importance to people, and we've got a war on, but this is important as well. And unless Kemi Badenoch is going to consistently and persistently keep pushing on this, it's going to be much, much harder to get to the truth.
Good man. Listen, keep it going. We'll get you on wherever. Thank you so much indeed. Dan Hodges from the Mail, this continuing story that will go absolutely nowhere. 9:33, Julia from 10. Tamara Gill is next on Talk Breakfast.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 25 to 10. Kevin Sullivan there, he's sounding fantastic on Drive. He said he's a wrong one. Is he talking about me, or what is he talking about? Or was it Jeffrey Epstein? 25 to 10, 0344 411 1000. The delightful Samara Gill, good morning.
Hello, morning.
I need you to lead this next bit. I've been up and at it and I'm working all day. This lady, your friend, Dr. Zoe Strimple, just explain a little bit about this. Is she on the line? Have we got her?
We've got her for you, and she's the one who basically authored that now viral post about that horrific anti-Semitic exhibition. And it wasn't even something she sought out to do. I mean, we can hear from Zoe ourselves as to how she just stumbled upon it on a quiet Sunday in Margate.
Zoe, welcome to Talk Breakfast. Delighted to have you on. I mean, the sort of headline from this disgusting thing is depictions of Jewish people eating babies. When you hear this sort of stuff and you read that out on a show like this, you go, what? Please do tell us more.
Well, as Samara says, it was on Saturday. I was just, wondering where to go for lunch, ambled in off the street, and then found myself, amidst the worst, the most extreme imagery of anti-Semitism that I've ever seen outside of a museum, which you could say is a good thing because it shows that, it's not entirely widespread and normal in museums yet. But this was just obviously immediately using 1930s or worse, imagery. The babies, you had everything. You had the added insult to injury. You had the swastika everywhere around the Star of David allegedly from the Israeli flag. You had IDF soldiers looking like ghouls stamping on skulls with that Star of David under their feet. You had individuals like colleagues of mine, David Collier, Dave Rich from the Community Security Trust, which keeps Jews safe. But this was all folded into this ferocious, almost obsessive hatred and disgust. And I think what really struck me was partly I'm aware of people who think nothing of comparing is the Jewish homeland with the Nazi state. which is horrendous. But there was almost like a pornographic element to this display because it was so filled with, it was charged with like erotic levels of hatred, and there were some images that were clearly pornographic to my eyes. So that just kind of compounded the sense of aggression. And I was just shocked. I mean, my jaw dropped, and I just thought, this is not right. And I'm aware of how much gets shoveled under that label of criticism of the Israeli state, which seems to just be a byword for do whatever you want. It's a field day. But even bearing in mind how used to that I am, I was completely shocked, confronted the artist, tried to stay calm, and was hounded, barked at, interrupted, cut off, ridiculed, jeered at, told I was, completely, obviously talking in bad faith just to manipulate, that I was just deploying kind of Zionist talking points in order to justify a genocide. And ultimately I was kind of told to leave, and the crowd sort of closed in around me. So I was completely shocked by this. Now, I did think, well, luckily I have a voice, I'm a journalist, whatever. So I wrote my piece on X, but I'd also, before doing that, called the police. I called the CST, and then I called the police. Police were not getting it. The police didn't think there was anything to see here, people. Now, I have written subsequently with more detailed legal, complaints here about what the crimes were, and we'll see. I have now, the complaint is being considered. So yeah, it just was like, okay, we know the police will go after any tiny, apparently to me, tiny infraction of equalities legislation to do with protected characteristics, whether it's misgendering, whether it's Islamophobia, whatever it is. And when it comes, but how are we then in a situation where a person can stroll off a street in Margate and see blood spewing out of Jews, satanic Jewish mouths? It was wild, and I really want that question answered.
Samara, it's appalling. I mean, what do you even say? Thank God she found it.
Yes, but unfortunately, a Labour-led Thanet council endorsed this on their website. I mean, this was not just, it was held up for the community to go to. And yeah, I mean, Zoe's experience with the police is sort of what we can now see as, millions of people viewed this on X, were outraged, it went totally viral, and yet the police still want to do nothing about it. And I think, we can bring free speech into this. We can say, Matthew Collier, the artist, who is not even a Palestinian, has nothing to do with the conflict, but wants to profit off it, can have something to do with it. But when we're locking people up for tweets, we can't then have this two-tier standard of not doing anything about that exhibition, because I believe it's an incitement to violence.
So exactly. I said yesterday, Zoe, and I don't ever want to repeat myself, but if you do this as regularly as I do, you do find yourself. It embarrasses me. I find said it every day, make no apology, I find any form of racism abhorrent. But I do start to worry. I've been worrying for a long, long time. I've got very strong Jewish friends that anti-Semitism isn't given the same credence. The same horror is not attached to it that is attached to every other form of racism. And I think it is so wrong. I think it needs to be called out on every opportunity that we get. We will do that. There's 250,000 Jews in this country who, rather sadly, many have said to me, well, yeah, that happens. I won't rest until, sorry, maybe I'm being naive. It shouldn't happen. It fundamentally can't happen. And something needs to be done to ensure that it doesn't. But it happens in more and more situations, and fair play to you. And also your story, they surrounded you and threatened you. It's almost as if, to me, that's rather symptomatic of what's happening to society nowadays, that if you don't have the view of, those people who go, well, that's my feelings. Yeah, well, what about mine? I happen to think that you're anti-Semitic, and I happen to think that you have no place in my society, and I don't actually care if you think that that's out there. That's what I feel, and I'm entitled to that.
Well, the thing is, here's where it's a little complicated, because I see everywhere in our society people abusing that sort of, oh, well, I feel this, therefore it must be illegal, or you should, it's manipulative. It can be really manipulative. And we are in strange terrain with the way the police kind of are supposed to, investigate alleged non-criminal hate crimes, or whatever they used to be called or are called. But the thing is, when it comes to Jews, actually are hate crimes being committed, because
Yeah.
it actually is incitement. But that's the one thing where people aren't worried. There's no shame attached to being accused of being anti-Semitic anymore. That's just something that you could, whereas with all the other ones, I think people do manipulate a lot of those isms and the I feel and this and that. And I really didn't want to do that with this. I'm very accustomed to feeling disgusted, outraged, and upset by the injustice and the flagrancy of what people allege about Israel. But this felt to me, looking at it, that it was a very specific violation of the laws of the land, because it was depicting people with a protected characteristic, which I happen to belong to, Jews, and also Israelis. I'm not Israeli, but like 80% of Jews. I have family in Israel, and I care about Israel's fate for that reason. Family who had to leave, Germany in the 1930s. And this was depicting those sorts of people, of which I am a member, as less than human, as beasts, kind of bestial, actually worse than beasts, much worse than beasts, satanic. His whole exhibition was very explicitly, if you look at the program notes, about Israel as hell, as the hell on earth. Zionism is hell, he writes. So when you're looking at that, I just thought people looking at this genuinely will think that we're not humans, and therefore the law ought not to, apply to what they may choose to do to us. So my plea is really to just have the law that exists, which I gather from lawyers is sufficient for this thing not to be okay.
It's just implementing it. There's bias, isn't there?
And that's it. Where's the will? And that's the question. We know where the will is. It's hiding under complicity and a desire among the police and others, and the CPS or whatever, to actively promote the idea that if it's so-called criticism of the Israeli state, which this was not, this was way not that. That's not criticism of any type I've ever seen before. Then anything is fine. You can have the Nazi imagery, you can have whatever. The policeman literally said to me, and I'm sorry, I realize I'm kind of slightly ranting here, but he said he was lecturing me and saying, well, just because the Israeli state has some Jews in it doesn't mean every, attack on the people of it is anti-Semitic.
A policeman said that to you?
The sergeant that called me up to break the news that in his view, having looked at all those pictures, it was not an attack on the Jewish people. It was just criticism of the Israeli state. Tried to explain to me that, there are some Jews, there's some overlap between Jews and Israelis, but that doesn't make it anti-Semitic. And you're just thinking, there's a big problem here, and it's willful, and it's about ignorance, and it's about what people want to believe. So
Zoe, great. Listen, and Samara, it's so important we tell these stories. That's that for me is the point of this station, and we thank you so much indeed, Dr. Zoe Strimple, columnist and commentator. That's appalling. I mean, it's by anybody.
It is appalling. I just want to read the right of reply from Mr. Collier, the amazing
right
artist.
To do. We are always here to be balanced and show both sides, he said, ticking a box.
In a social media post to those Kent police who are clearly really helpful to Dr. Zoe, he said that he had received multiple death threats for work exposing his anti-Semitism. He added, "I've been assaulted, and last year my car was attacked with acid, and I'm now being targeted again. This time through so-called art exhibition featuring Nazi imagery and classic blood libels, including demonic Jews eating babies. I was explicitly named in that exhibit." Well, it was your exhibit. "That is not abstract expression. It is singling out an individual and placing a target on my back."
How do you think he feels the Jewish population feel then? Or have I missed the point entirely there?
What a great point to end on.
If you're going to, and I'm all for free speech, Strangey, and I'm all for people who disagree, but this is the point that we make every single day, and I say about my daughters. If he wants to do that, now I happen to think that's inciting, but he has to be able to, if he does that, to accept that many of us find that abhorrent. And now he's getting some comeback. But imagine being a Jewish person and walking into that as Dr. Zoe did and being manhandled out because they didn't like the fact that she's Jewish.
They can dish it out, but they can't take it.
Absolutely right. What is it? You're shouting at me in my ear. What did you say to me? Oh, break Aaron's waiting. What, my private doctor's waiting to come on television again? You bloody well wait for me. Craig, good morning.
Hiya, Jezza. Craig the trucker from Bridgewater, Somerset. Another thing as well, I'm just thinking about how many scandals, like you said in your show today, how many scandals have been covered up and just swept under the carpet. It's consistent. The Labour Party and the government at the moment are consistently wiping the slate clean, it feels like, and they just expect the British public to forget about it. This country, not good, Jezza. We're falling apart.
When conflict breaks out anywhere in the world, it has consequences here at home. Talk War is your definitive national security briefing. From the conflict in Ukraine to the tensions in Gaza and the latest escalation with Iran, this is where you'll find comprehensive comment and expert analysis with multiple updates throughout the day. The Talk War podcast from Talk, available on the Talk app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 10 to 10. So Julia Hartley-Brewer will be here from 10 o'clock, sounding fantastic, Monday to Thursday, 10 until 1, only here on Talk. 0344 499 1000. There's been all about phones. It's all about Morgan McSweeny. But there is also a rather chilling story out today. We've got 10 minutes. Junior doctors have decided they're going to strike for 6 days from April the 7th. That's after the Easter break, by the way, which means they'll get the bank holiday Friday and Monday off on 6 days, so that's a 10-day holiday. This is as they are now demanding another 26% pay rise. It will be their 15th separate strike in 3 years. I'm going to read this before I get Aaron the legend on. Jez, is it just me, or do the resident doctors just not look like doctors anymore? I remember when doctors looked like the professionals they were, not a student rag-week rabble as they do now. Dr. Aaron Ghosh, good morning.
Good morning.
You know how strong I am on this, my friend. I'm all for people being paid a wage. 15th strike in 3 years, 28% from Wes Streeting. Many, many people who I think would have been sympathetic in the past are losing patience with a group of people who, to me, are becoming massively political and putting that in front of looking after patients.
Doesn't it feel completely out of step with the way everyone else is having to live at this moment in time, knowing that prices are going up, knowing the pressure that we're all under? And the junior doctors, resident doctors now, are, I think, really making a big mistake, and they are playing with the public faith. I absolutely think the public are not on the side of what this junior doctor strike is going to do, and it's going to cost £300 million per strike. And you can see we just can't afford to do that at the start of this financial year.
So that's 15 strikes. That's £4.5 billion. We've a health service that's failing on all fronts. You worked in the health service. We've talked repeatedly about this, and I believe probably when we were talking about this a couple of years ago, many would have had sympathy with the doctors. I point the finger absolutely at Wes Streeting, who gave them 28% and said, I've sorted the world's problems out, without putting any controls into what that meant further down the line. But I'm with you. You talk about people's patience. I've got people every day saying they should be banned now, like the army and like the police, from doing this, because people will die, Aaron, won't they?
Unfortunately, it was a 93% vote to take industrial action.
Yeah, but hold on. This is the BMA, which we know is political. I'm not asking you to be political. 93% of how many people? How many people voted who were BMA members?
Absolutely, and I was just about to say, however, what you look at is the number of the doctors proportionately that were represented were very, very low. I do not feel, and I still believe, that most doctors want to be doing their job. They want to be training. They want to be progressing. And this kind of action really stops all of it. It deters people away from actually going into the profession. The next generation of doctors don't want to see that they have to be sitting there taking strike action if they want to be part of that team and part of that club. Also, the senior doctors, I speak to many of my senior colleagues, they're no longer supporting this action. They don't understand. Once you've already had a pay rise, which they've had, once they've already been given better rights, so they now get paid better, they get better working hours, they get better payments towards their training, they get more subsidies given towards their fees. All of this has happened. So what are you now fighting for? Because you've had it, and you've been awarded it, and you're actually with a government who should be more supportive of the NHS, and you're actually still fighting. It feels completely absurd, and as I said, completely against what I think they're going to achieve, which is public support. I just don't think the public are going to support this any longer.
I agree wholeheartedly, and just looking at that footage, and without being flippant, that text that was sent, I can't help but agree with it. These look like activists. These look like students who don't like the fact that the pint of beer's gone up to £8 at the Students' Union. I'm being completely honest. This to me looks like, and we know famously that the BMA is very politically left-wing, and thus the value of the doctor. We said this before. Tell me your working conditions are terrible. Tell me your hours are long. No, money, 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 money. And you're absolutely right how you started this, and we can finish it, which is to say, you know, irrespective of the Iran war, which is impacting on the cost of living, everything is up, Aaron. Food, petrol, energy, everything. People, I call them jams, just about managing. They're hacked off. They're hacked off with people coming here illegally and getting more. They're hacked off with the benefit situation. And they're certainly hacked off with junior doctors who now give the impression that they were given a nice deal, more and more and more. I honestly, I don't know whether something has to be done, because it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable.
What upsets me the most is their argument is that doctors are leaving the country and they're going for better pay and they're doing all of that. Our training here is world renowned. And if you want to leave just for money, then you're in the wrong profession, because you should never have done medicine just for the money. You should have done medicine because it was a vocation, it was a calling in life, and that's what you really want to do, which is help and serve your patients. And that's what all doctors should be doing. And I really strongly urge the junior doctors, if they are going to take this action in 2 weeks, and I can't see it being averted, that you really look very, very deeply at what you're doing, and will you be doing patients harm by taking that strike action? Because I believe you will be.
Mate, it's great. I love having you on. Thank you. The other night, he did it again. Mrs. Kyle has laryngitis. He sorted her out. That didn't sound right, did he? With some medicine. What? He sorted Mrs. Kyle out. Dr. Ghost, we love you, mate. Thank you very much indeed. You're a legend. 0344 499 1000. Head of Julia. One last time. Here's a selection of the phone call between Morgan McSweeny and the police. It's 24 seconds put together by this vain attempt at a breakfast show. Have a listen.
Police, what's your emergency?
Oh, hello. Someone just robbed my phone.
Did they actually take it from you just now?
Yeah.
And where did this happen?
It happened in Belgrave Street in Westminster.
And whose phone are you using now?
I've got two phones. I'm using my personal one. That was my work one.
Can I take the phone number for this phone you're calling on?
Yeah. 07 beep.
Thank you.
If you've been following this story this morning, I'm sure Julia will carry on an extraordinary story. Scotland Yard yesterday publishing a full transcript of Morgan McSweeney's call with the Metropolitan Police when his phone was conveniently stolen. 3 days after an inquiry was launched into how Mandelson ever got the job and the links between McSweeny and him in voice notes. I mean, WhatsApp messages, which have gone. His phone wasn't tracked. There's no CCTV footage. Everybody's going, this is fishy, this is very fishy, but that will no doubt carry on. The Cabinet Office this morning said we've got some of them, but not all of them. Thank you to everybody who took part in the show this morning. It was the thing that got you going. Roderick, Starmer blaming the Secretary of State for being in control of the decision to drill for oil and gas. It's cobblers, along with the McSweeny affair. This government are a total joke. But how on earth are we going to cope with the damage that is going to befall us if this lot are in power for the next 3 years? It's how the 14 viewers to this station feel about me every morning at 6 o'clock. Julia on the way, 0344 499 1000. Am I allowed to say pretty in pink? I love that colour on you.
You like me in pink? That's because we're matching pink. There you are.
We could have just come from the same pod. I feel quite... I don't know what's the matter. I feel quite emotional, Julia. How are you?
I've got to be honest with you. I'm getting very worried about these handovers.
Do you not want to do one then? You're going to make some complaint if you're through. I just said you look beautiful this morning. What's wrong with that?
Very, very
Mate,
kind.
I know you're probably a little bit more highbrow than me, but you can try.
Really?
You can try your backside off. All they want to talk about is this has got more holes than a Swiss cheese.
I know
by the way.
and it's not about some bloke and his mobile phone.
No!
This is about
The
sort of the
Prime
heart
Minister.
of government, covering allegedly covering up some really, really poor judgment in government. And
I had Sarah Vine on who said, William, my son, lost his phone, and I had to say to the police, he's my